Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wrestleview Live number 119 for the WrestleMania XL or WrestleMania 40. I don't know what it is. It's one of those two things there. I keep calling it WrestleMania 40, and I think everybody else is kind of confused as well. When I watch WWE TV, they're like WrestleMania XL or WrestleMania 40, like they don't know what to do. So I'm just gonna call it WrestleMania 40 for the rest of the night here. But we're here for the prediction show. I'm so excited because this is a weekend I've been waiting for quite some time. A phenomenal build to this show. And I have some phenomenal people on here with me today to break it down and give some predictions for it. We got the fabulous Roy Nemmer, our SmackDown recapper here.
Hello, thank you, Mike. Very good. Very happy to be here. Very much looking forward to this weekend. Been looking forward to this weekend since last year, about April 3rd, I guess, since the fallout of WrestleMania 39.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one since I heard that Vince was finally out in like October. So I was just like, well, we're going to really see it now. And we're going to get a taste of it this weekend here. You know, the first WrestleMania without Vince. And we also have our AEW Dynamite recapper as well as news reporter Alex Carr is with us as well. Alex, how are you tonight?
Hi, I am good, and I am also going to call it WrestleMania 40 because XL is a size too small for me. So 40 it is. I'm very excited. I'm kind of with Roy about with all the stuff that happened immediately following last year's WrestleMania to see us actually getting into a truly new era, I guess, of WWE is very exciting.
It really is. And it does feel brand new, you know, like just the way, you know, like Roy and I talked about this on the Post Raw show on Monday, but even the way that they're doing the backstage segments, you know, where, you know, they do like little foreshadowing things, you know, like, and you have to be paying attention. You know, if you miss it, you miss it. It doesn't really hurt the story. But for those that are paying attention, there's these nice little Easter eggs. Doesn't feel like there's any more wasted segments, wasted time. Everything has a purpose. I love that, you know, like you can be watching a random backstage segment with the New Day and Imperium having a little verbal confrontation in the background. In the background, you see like Damage Control walk in. You're like, what's going on over there? They weren't announced for the show tonight. Or Paul Heyman talking to Drew McIntyre. I love that kind of stuff. I love that the storylines seem like there's some thought put into them, and there's a destination, and the production. And Alex, you're sitting in what looks like a production truck right now. The production absent of Kevin Dunn, you know, for the first time in 35 years, about. Wow, it just feels so fresh. It feels like a brand new show. It feels like a wrestling show produced for the 21st century. Before we even get into the predictions, how have you felt about WWE programming since, I mean, you know, these gigantic changes have happened?
Well, to put it simply, it's given me more of a reason to try to watch WWE programming, especially in the past 6 months or so. And I say that as someone who's kind of expressed my woes of trying to actually watch the programming from like a logistics standpoint. I still wish USA would give us give YouTube TV subscribers an East Coast feed, for example, so I can actually watch it at East Coast time. But the stuff that I've watched has been really exciting. Just like the storylines in general have been a lot of fun to see develop. And you mentioned about the production stuff, and honestly, I'm a big fan of the production stuff in the last few weeks. Something as small as the sort of single shot that we saw a few weeks back, you know. And for me, that was the one that had to do with like you see Sami Zayn going to the back or whatever, then you see like him briefly interacting or, you know, with like the Awesome Truth before they make their entrance, you know, stuff like that. It's just exciting. It's really exciting. And it's just, I think it's just going to add to what's going to be a very fun WrestleMania card.
Absolutely. Roy, what do you think?
I completely wholeheartedly agree with Alex. We all know wrestling is scripted, right? At the end of the day, sports, entertainment. What? You didn't know? I'm sorry.
What's kayfabe?
What's kayfabe? There you go. But just by doing those shots, like the one that Alex mentioned, it gives it more of that authenticity, that vibe of like it is real and anything could happen. And the production is completely different. And it feels different. it's even, I was watching CM Punk even kind of talk about it with Ariel Helwani. He's like, well, kind of like Kevin Dunn is out. We got new production, and the production is different. So even the wrestlers feel it. And imagine how much more fun it is for them now as opposed to last year or even a couple of months back.
Absolutely. Those continuous shots have really stuck out to me in the last couple of weeks. I like even this past Monday, you got Seth Rollins walking backstage, then he comes across like Drew McIntyre kind of like crumpled on like those road crates, kind of just like watching him like, hey, don't forget about me. I'm right here. And he goes, I'm not dead yet. He walks off and he shouts, yet. And then you just watch him. You just follow him as he makes his entrance. And that was such a cool thing. It's like following like, the team from the locker room to the stadium, like one of those type deals. It's got a real sports vibe to it, as Roy was saying as well. And even like there was like one shot probably a week or two ago. I think it was during a women's match where they came back from break and it was just one steady cam at ringside, and they were just following the action on this one single continuous shot for about a minute and a half. It was just something different that we never see, because usually it's like they throw a punch and then you get 16 camera cuts so that, it's like, oh, we got to cover up that they're not actually punching each other. It just feels so fresh, so different. Even the slideshow transitions into the commercial break to so you see the people in action before it even happens. Really just smart stuff. And I have a feeling they've been experimenting with some things, and I think there's a bunch of tricks in their bag that we haven't even seen yet that are probably going to be unleashed at WrestleMania. I can't wait. It's just the production is just top notch right now.
I hope so. And is it just me? Correct me, guys, if I'm wrong. Are we seeing less CGI when it comes to the entrances, or is it just me? Or maybe it's still the same as is. I don't know.
Well, they still got that stupid augmented, that AR Roman Reigns, that thing. But there's certainly there does seem to be less augmented reality happening. I don't know if you noticed that, Alex.
Yeah, I think if nothing else, I think they're picking and choosing a little bit better, or at least they're at least doing so being a little more deliberate on like who's actually getting those sort of AR type entrance shots. It's funny because I remember a couple years back when they had, I can't remember if this was during the Thunderdome era or if it was like before or after, but at some point they had like the 8K camera shots of like the entrances.
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't noticed that as much, but like with all the other stuff going on, it's totally fine. But I remember that being an example of an entrance, like as a shot in a wrestling program that was unique, that was different. And then it just kind of went away. And they may or may not have eased it back in, but it's like the point is they're making changes. And when you get used to a particular style for so long, like you mentioned, like the million camera cuts, for me, it's the constant zooming in and out of like when they're to emphasize the action. And it's like they've cut down on that so drastically that it's like, it's noticeable. And it's for the better, I think.
It's less exhausting to watch. Like I remember when they first, went back to crowds, I think it was like July 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And, the first thing that they did was send Vince out there, and he did that supremely lame, where the hell you been thing, which I was like, oh God, he just sucks. But I remember somebody posted it in the Facebook group. And I just remember Josh Boutwell, who I love Josh, former AEW Dynamite recapper, battling, going through his battle with cancer. We hope he's doing well. We love Josh. But I just remember he watched the video and he goes, what the hell's with all these camera cuts? I mean, it was like, it's funny. You're so desensitized to it that you don't even, realize what's happening until somebody points out, like, Jesus, that is a lot of camera cuts. It does feel a lot more, I don't know, focused, less chaotic, and
professional. Not to say it wasn't before, but it's more on par with the other actual sports.
Yeah.
NBA, NFL, NHL.
And the presentation, you could put wrestling on in a sports bar now, and it's not like kind of goofy. I was talking to somebody last week who, was at a bar trivia night when The Rock was beating down Cody Rhodes and the whole place just kind of stopped and was watching. And that was all one continuous shot. I mean, really, it's just night and day little things that they're doing that are really, really good, which is why I'm so excited for this WrestleMania, and I'm excited to talk about it, and I'm excited to get to our predictions here. So, Roy, what match are we going to be talking about first here?
We're going to go, obviously, we're going to take a look at night one first, and we're going to go with the match that I personally think might open the show. And I think it's going to be this one, the women's match.
Wow. You think that'll open the show?
I think either this one or the ladder match opens the show. I know Alex has a couple of things to talk about when it comes to the ladder match, so I want to save that a little bit for later. But I think we get a big title match to start off the show, and Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch is what I think we're going to get.
I was going the Hogan route. I was thinking brother versus brother. You know, that's what I thought was going to open the show.
Or that. And that is on night one. You never know.
You never know. But this is the big match here. Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch. Oh, my goodness. There's a lot going on here. And Roy and I kind of covered it on Monday night. But it doesn't feel as hot as, like, you know, the Rhea Ripley match did last year. And I think that's because of the challenger in this case. Becky Lynch kind of, I've been playing a lot of WWE 2K24. I'm going through the WrestleMania Showcase thing right now. There is no discernible difference from Becky Lynch in 2019, where even by the time she got to WrestleMania, she wasn't really all that hot anymore, to Becky Lynch now. It just feels like she's been rehashing the same thing for 5 years. And it was so apparent on that WrestleMania Showcase thing. And I think that's what's kind of hampering this match for me. Why, I love Rhea Ripley. I think she's done amazing work and really groundbreaking work, for, changing again, China, I think China made a lot of strides in that. I think they've had some women through the years that have kind of made that stride of, kind of like blurring, what it is to be a female superstar and, and really being like the star of the show, the head of the stable, really. It's like she's the leader of Judgment Day. We haven't had really like a female lead like this before where she's dominant as well, not just manipulative. Like there's a different way of presenting a female character. It's just a shame. I think that she's kind of been hampered, with Becky Lynch. I don't know how everybody feels about it, but I'm going to throw it to Alex first. I want to know what Alex thinks of Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch and what your prediction is.
Generally speaking, I'm excited for the match. I do think it was interesting and it was cool at the very least to see Becky win Elimination Chamber to like earn the right to challenge. But I'm a little bit with you, Mike, on just like I feel like for me, Becky Lynch at WrestleMania reached its peak back at 35 when they had the women's main event. That triple threat with like both titles on the line, I believe it was. Which, looking back on that, that's such a wild match to even think about that. It's like they really pulled the trigger on just at least for the one night we're just gonna put both titles on the line. And the 2-belt Becky story that came out of that was pretty exciting at the time. But 5 years later, and it's just like, well, this is cool. Becky Lynch is back at WrestleMania, back in a big time match. I enjoyed seeing Becky as part of that 6-woman tag match last year. As far as this women's world championship match, I'm still a Becky Lynch fan, but it's really hard to deny just how hot of a streak Rhea Ripley's been on the last, at least the past year or so, like dating as far back as her match last year at Mania. So it's really hard for me not to go with Mommy to retain the title in this case.
We got one for Mommy so far.
We got one for Mommy. So Alex says Rhea Ripley. I think it has to be Rhea Ripley. I think Becky probably puts on a great match. I think she's her and Rhea hopefully pull off a very good match. I think it has to be Rhea. I think anything but Rhea is a mistake right now. Having Becky win the belt for me doesn't make much sense. I think it just has to be Rhea. It has to be her. That's all I got for this one. We spoke about this a lot on Monday. I'm not Becky's biggest fan right now, but I think it absolutely has to be Rhea Ripley for this one.
All right, we got 2 for Rhea Ripley. Yeah, it's not really a question of just like being a fan of Becky Lynch. I like Becky Lynch. I like Rebecca Quinn, the person here. And I'm really looking forward to whenever I get a free chance to reading her autobiography, which she's a #1. Well, I don't know if is it #1. That part I didn't catch.
Not yet.
She's a New York Times best-selling author, though. She's on that list. So good for her. There's no denying her passion for the business. And it really, it just comes down to creative for her. They haven't presented anything fresh for her. I'm looking for something fresh from Becky Lynch, and I keep getting like the same rehash of what worked. They came really close to a brand new Becky Lynch when she faced Bianca Belair 2 years ago. She had the darker hair color. They cut her hair. She was a much more menacing heel. And then they ultimately wound up dropping it, after that SummerSlam when Damage Control returned. I guess because they felt like they needed to have, maybe they weren't sure about Bianca Belair or whatever it was, but they felt, because of the brand split coming up, maybe they were going to switch them. They weren't sure yet, so they felt we need to have 2 major face women, maybe women as major faces here. I don't know what the thinking was, but they came close to something fresh, and since then it's just been kind of like a tired rehash, blah blah blah. So. I do like that they've had her fighting. I like that, they've had Rhea Ripley kind of, resting on her laurels. I think it will actually make for a really fascinating match if they play into that aspect of the storyline. But I feel like this WrestleMania is going to have a lot of faces coming out triumphant. And there are 2 people that are face that I think are going to have a bad weekend here. One of them definitely is Becky Lynch, and the other one I think is going to be her husband ultimately. And I think that'll be a really fascinating storyline if they do that. Where I am absolutely predicting Rhea Ripley to win this one, and I think it'll be a really fascinating storyline if they kind of go through this like family woes storyline of we were you were close to the top, I was at the top, and now we're both scratching and clawing to get back. So. I think we got 3 for Rhea Ripley here.
We got 3. Jerome gave us his prediction earlier for Rhea Ripley's. So all 4 of us, and looking at the chat, it looks like. By the way, everybody, thank you for joining us.
Yes,
chat is very, very lively, and it looks like everybody is going for Rhea, bar 1. I think Clinton's going for Becky, but other than that, everyone's going for Rhea. And just going to bring this up, Dimitris. Good evening, everyone there. Good morning from Heathrow Airport. So all the way from London, traveling to Philadelphia to watch the show. Becky's done all. It's Rhea's time. Absolutely dominant. Hope you enjoyed the show, Dimitris. Have a very safe flight. And thank you for joining us, Heathrow.
All right. And we also got Uncle Billy Hefner here in the chat as well. And he is in Philadelphia right now. He is ready for WrestleMania. And I do want to take a moment to publicly thank Billy. He had an extra ticket tonight too and offered it to me. I couldn't ultimately go to WrestleMania this year because we're so close to having that 3rd baby. You can hear it in my voice already. I'm getting over being sick. And I'm just so afraid of. I feel like I've been sick since Christmas. Like there hasn't really been like any. Maybe like a week or 2 where I felt good and then I would get sick again, partly because I have a kid in preschool and she's bringing home all this crap. but I just couldn't risk again. And it's freezing out. It's been raining all week here. I think it's going to be pretty cold at WrestleMania. I just can't afford to get sick anymore. So thank you, Billy. I really, really appreciate it. And I know he's going to have an awesome time. Me and Billy did WrestleMania 30, 10 years ago back in New Orleans together. So it's great. I'm glad that Billy's back at WrestleMania. And hey, have fun. And thank you. So let's get to our next match here, Roy.
All right, next match, we're going to get to, a match that you mentioned, Mike. Let's go brother versus brother.
Oh, the Hogan special here.
The Hulk Hogan special, brother. Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso. We'll kick things off. Mike, what do you think? What's going to happen with this one?
Oh, God. Okay. I think the bloodline has to dominate for this whole weekend to make sense. And when we get to the main event night 2, I think you'll figure out why. But I think it's got to be Jimmy Uso going over here. I think there's got to be some tomfoolery with Solo. I think they have to make it seem like the bloodline is an unstoppable force heading into night 2. So I think this is going to have Solo interference galore. I don't know. Is there another Samoan out there that could debut and interfere in this match? Yes, of course there always is. So I see Jimmy Uso getting the win here. I think Jay is going to make a great showing, but it's got to be Jimmy.
Wow. All right, Alex.
You make a great point, Mike. But I like my perspective on it is that because Solo, I think as far as Solo is concerned, he's going to be kind of forced to focus on helping The Rock and Roman Reigns later in the night, and I don't know if I don't think that means he's going to be as involved in this match, barring any interference from any other Usos, so to speak, anyone else that could potentially join the bloodline. I actually think Jay could end up taking this, and so I gotta go. I gotta go with Jey Uso, and for lack of a better way to explain anything else, I'm just gonna have to end this little portion of the chat with yeet.
Okay.
Oh, all right. We got one for each. I don't know, because I don't know what way they want to spin this. Like, if Jay gets the win, then obviously that helps him in a potential singles run. But I feel like Jimmy has not had a proper singles win in such a long time. We might get Owen Hart going over Bret Hart. We might get that Jimmy Uso going over the Jey Uso. And I'm going to have to side with Mike on this one. I think Jimmy gets the win. Even though I think they're going to continue to push Jay as a single star more so than Jimmy, I think the older brother in this case gets the win. So I'm going to go with Jimmy Uso on getting the win. So we're 2 for Jimmy. Alex, you're the odd man out, and Jerome had mentioned Jimmy wins with outside interference.
Wow.
So
okay, we'll just find out.
You might get the bragging rights, Alex. Whenever you never know. We'll know come Saturday.
I like it. That's why we do prediction shows.
So we do it. Yeah. And Jorge, hello Jorge. Jorge says checking in from Tijuana. Rikishi will run in and stop some carnage. Hey, that we could get a Rikishi run in. It's true.
There's something to be said about the Anoa'i family really being rooted in that Allentown, Pennsylvania area. I wonder if they will find a way to get the family involved some way. I'd be curious.
Yeah. We might get Rikishi. There's got to be some sort of outside interference or something. Somebody shows up. Something.
Well, I remember at SummerSlam they made a big deal about talking about the elders and things like that, but they never really followed through with that. I'd be curious to see what happens. Oh, anyway, it's a fascinating match. one that it's going to be pretty difficult to recap. I have a feeling.
I think there's one match on the card that we're going to get to next that might be even more difficult to recap, and I think it's Mike knows which one I'm talking about. Alex, it's your time to shine. The 6-pack tag team ladder match.
I'm gonna do the Rock thing. Just I got chills. Just got chills thinking about this ladder match, man.
It's only fair. Floor is yours, Alex.
So they've been really. I love when WWE likes to try to really drive a certain point home about certain matches and storylines. And with this match, they've been really driving home the idea that the ladder match will continue until both sets of titles have been retrieved. And that's a very big sticking point for me, because when I heard that and I started thinking about it more, I was like, oh crap, they're doing the thing. They're doing the thing that I frankly wanted to see them do last year. Because I'd been talking with people about like the build up to Roman versus Cody last year at WrestleMania, and how I kind of saw them splitting the world title up. Obviously, that's not what happened, so I'm not going to dwell on that too much. But they're doing that with the tag titles. I think it feels like it, especially because this whole time they've kept both sets of titles to represent the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions. They didn't give the Usos a brand new belt. They certainly didn't give new belts to Sammy and Kevin Owens when they won at WrestleMania last year. So I think they're pulling the trigger and actually splitting the belts again. And because of that, and because of the stipulation, this is where I get into my actual prediction. I think we're going to come out of this match with two different tag champions, and so I've made my predictions based on that assumption, and I'm hoping I don't look like a dang fool coming out of this. But I think that, simply put, I don't think the champs going into this match are coming out with either titles. I think Awesome Truth are going to end up retrieving the Raw Tag Team Championship, and SmackDown's a little bit harder to tell, but they've recently formed the New Catch Republic, so that's kind of my pick for the SmackDown Tag Team titles, like for them to be the new SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Whether they continue to call Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Champions after WrestleMania remains to be seen, but that's my pick. Is that I think we're going to get two Tag Team Champions coming out of this ladder match, because they keep driving that point of the match will continue until both titles have been retrieved. So I'm just like, it's got to happen, right?
They made a point to say it, and I mean, unless they're teasing CM Punk as the guest referee, usually when they say something, they really actually mean it. So like there's a reason why. There's a reason why they kept saying, "Oh, Cody's not medically clear and he's not going to be here tonight." Because you knew he's going to come. So there has to be something here. So yeah, it's really. I mean, if we're picking two winners here, and I do think they are going to split these titles up. I think part of me feels like, do we really need two sets of titles for Raw and SmackDown? Not that the titles are defended all that often, so I guess, but like it just doesn't seem like there's like such a heavy amount of tag teams for both shows that it warrants having two. But nonetheless, regardless, I could definitely see it happening. Maybe they do the exact same thing they did with the women's titles, where the SmackDown Women's title became the WWE Women's Championship, and the Raw Women's Championship became the World Women's Championship. Maybe we get the World Tag Team titles on Raw and the WWE Tag Team titles on SmackDown. In fact, I think they used to do that when they first did the brand split in 2002.
Yep. Yeah.
So we might get a little a taste of that, and hopefully redesigned belts, because these belts are Ugg and Lee. So we got the Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest. We got DIY. In this match, we got the Awesome Truth. We got A-Town Down Under, the New Day. Of course, you can't have a WrestleMania Tag Team title match unless it's last year's. But the New Day has been all around these matches for a long time. And of course, the New Catch Republic. with Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. I mean, I feel like the Judgment Day has to come up short here because it's about time. I think it's time to start moving this storyline into the next echelon, especially with Damian Priest. And I think Damian Priest is going to be the one that's like super dominant in this match, only to, come up short. And maybe there's, some miscommunication with Finn Balor that ultimately winds up making that happen. But I think Damian Priest is going to look like a different level of champion in this match. Because again, he's been holding this Money in the Bank briefcase for about 9 months. And he's got a year to do it. So the time is now to start making those moves. So I think you got to get the titles off them. I don't think Regeneration X or DIY is going to do it, but I really love all the work that R-Truth has been doing. And God, if there's somebody that deserves a WrestleMania moment, it's Ron Killings, man. I think he's winless at WrestleMania. I would love to see, R-Truth kind of like, and especially overcome, because they made a point a couple months ago to say that he's overcome his fear of ladders, to have him up there and get those titles, or maybe become afraid of ladders once he, afraid of heights once he gets the titles. There's a lot of fun stuff they could do with that. And I think on the SmackDown side, it's either got to be A-Town Down or New Catch Republic. I'm not really into A-Town Down Under, so I'm just going to go with New Catch Republic. I really don't know. But Awesome Truth for the win, 100%. And the other one, that's a wishy-washy result for me.
All right. So we got New Catch Republic, 2 votes, or right, 2 predictions. And same for Awesome Truth. So far, same predictions? Is it right in saying that? Yeah. I completely agree with Alex. I think we do get new tag team champions. I don't think the Judgment Day retain. As he put it, the champions coming in are not going to be the same champions coming out. Hopefully not DIY. They haven't really been getting much of the reaction from the crowd, which by default kind of leaves you with the Awesome Truth if it's on Raw. And on SmackDown, I think it's going to be A-Town Under. I'm going to be the odd man out on this one. I think it's going to be A-Town Down Under, just because I see them doing something with Logan Paul and their championship belts and something along those lines. So that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Awesome Truth on Raw, and it's going to have to be A-Town Down Under for SmackDown. So we'll see who gets those predictions right or wrong.
We shall see. Okay, Jorge, I will absolutely take you up on that offer, by the way. I absolutely take you up, and I'll bring Alex because I think we got the same prediction here. So
there you go. Well, Alex is a little bit closer. Alex, you're based in California, right?
You can drive.
Basically, yeah.
You can drive.
Pay for a nice long cab ride or something. I don't know.
I'll take a flight. I just got my real ID, so I'm like really excited about life. It was hard to get that real ID, by the way. They really like make you go through a lot of hoops to get it. So I had to find my birth certificate.
I do want to say real quick before we move on any further. To your point, like I'm sticking with my New Catch Republic pick, but if Theory and Waller win the SmackDown titles, that would make sense at least. Yeah. I just want to put that out there because truthfully, I almost forgot how much of a thing the team is until they got brought up again. Like, yeah.
They're trying with them, right? Especially with Logan Paul. So that's why I think they potentially do something with them and have them win the titles. But we'll find out on Saturday. All right. Let's keep going. Next one is not a title match, but it is a debut. And it is the 6-woman tag team match. Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and Naomi versus Damage Control. So Dakota Kai, Asuka, and Kairi Sane. Anyone want to take a stab at this one first?
I'll go just because I really don't have much to say about it. I think they're being extraordinarily smart, putting Jade Cargill, who they started showing her in the fall only to say like, you know what, she's not ready yet. Let's pull her back. Let's put her in the Performance Center, get her going. I guess they didn't watch AEW before, so let's get her going and get her up to snuff with what we expect, for somebody that we're giving this kind of push to. We want her also to be able to perform to the push. And she's got the look. There's no question about it. She's got the look. She is red hot, and I'm not just looks wise, but just in terms of her momentum as well. And the presentation is awesome. I think they're going to catch her up, in the Performance Center, but hiding her in a 6-woman tag where you've got Bianca Belair and Naomi, supremely athletic, supremely gifted women. And look, Dakota Kai, Asuka, and Kairi Sane are no schleps in terms of being a great base for these three, especially Jade Cargill. I think Jade does a few things. Obviously, he's going to get the pin here, and it's going to look like $1 million because they're going to do the little smoke and mirrors action, and they're going to make her look like the next superstar. I'm calling it right now. WrestleMania 41, Rhea Ripley still will be the champion, and she will be facing Jade Cargill.
Wow, that's a bold prediction.
There you go.
That's a bold one. Alex, do you agree with Mike's prediction and Mike's prediction of WrestleMania 41?
I don't like to look too far into the future. I'm not a 5-year plan kind of guy. I'm not even a 1-year plan kind of guy myself. So I have no comment on WrestleMania 41. But as far as WrestleMania 40 goes, as far as WrestleMania 40 goes, the simplest way I can put it is Jade Cargill is making her WrestleMania debut, right? After months of hype, after they initially signed her, they spent a good couple months or so just hyping up her impending arrival, having her showcased on all 3 of the brands, basically, She made appearances on NXT, on Raw, and on SmackDown, She showed up at the Royal Rumble, still technically floating in between brands, not quite sure where she's, going to debut at. And then she, correct me if I'm wrong, she recently finally actually signed with SmackDown, right?
Yeah
right.
She did. Yes.
Right. So they've done all this hype. I don't see her losing her first WrestleMania match after all that hype. So I love Damage Control to death, but I think this is not going to be their night. So I gotta go with Jade, Bianca, and Naomi. And it's a great moment, and it's also a great moment and a chance to continue Bianca's kind of win streak at WrestleMania and kind of give Naomi a nice moment, following her return to the company at the Royal Rumble.
I like that. Yeah, I did not even think of Bianca Belair and her win streak at WrestleMania. I think we're gonna all agree on this one. I think it's gonna be unanimous. It has to be Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, and Naomi. We might get maybe Jade coming in just towards the very end. She gets that tag, gets in, gets the pin, gets the win for the team. But again, I got to go back to what Mike said. Everything revolving Jade Cargill is red hot. The presentation, the way they've just built her up from the second she signed to the presentation on SmackDown last week to Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce fighting to get her signature. They've done tremendously well. I don't know if I'd go as far as saying she's going to main event WrestleMania 41, although I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't know if I'd go that far just yet. But I will go as far as to say they do win at WrestleMania, and she's the one that gets the pin for her team. I think that's probably the most easiest prediction of both nights. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, this one's fairly obvious here. They didn't invest all this time and energy into it just to have her. Look, I thought she actually had a great showing in the Royal Rumble too.
She did.
She was definitely not a slouch.
Absolutely,
she made it to the final 3. Looked really, really strong in that. So I think she's gonna have I think it's gonna be a great night for her, and I think she's gonna pick up a win now that she's officially debuted. The Royal Rumble was a surprise, but now she's officially on a roster ready to do something. This is going to be a great rocket to get that momentum going to WrestleMania 41 when she faces Rhea Ripley.
There you go. Bold prediction by Mike. We're going to have to clip that and play in around 12 months' time. All right. Now we're getting to another title match. And this one, Mike and I kind of spoke about this on Monday, but it's the Intercontinental Championship match. It's Gunther, the champion, versus Sami Zayn, longest reigning Intercontinental champion of all time, up against one of the hottest superstars of 2023 in Sami Zayn. Alex, we'll go with you first.
This pick is gonna break my heart because you see what shirt I'm wearing coming into this. This is a shirt I got last year at the at WrestleMania Superstore because I am a huge Sami Zayn fan. I'm a fan of his work since he's been in WWE. I'm a fan of, let's just say, the man that once mentored him and won El Generico. But I mean, Gunther's the guy when it comes to the Intercontinental scene. He's the guy who finally, in the midst of like looking at Roman Reigns' historic title reign, the records that he's been breaking here and there, Gunther is the guy that broke the streak as far like the record. He's now the longest run. He's got the longest reign as Intercontinental champion. Now he's the guy who finally broke the record originally set by the Honky Tonk Man in the 80s. Okay, so I love Sami Zayn to death, but I don't think he's gonna be the one to beat Gunther at WrestleMania to win the title. So I gotta go with the champ to retain on this one.
All right, fair enough. Mike?
That's bold, and that is an interesting way to think about it too. That Sami Zayn, I'm sorry, Gunther is in a way doing something more historic than Roman Reigns is. Roman Reigns is it's history because we haven't seen this type of longevity in 30 some odd years. Like when he's I think if he were to retain the title on Sunday and make it to September, he would surpass Hulk Hogan's initial title run that he won from the Iron Sheik and ultimately lost to Andre the Giant on the main event in 1988. But it still would be like half of what Bruno Sammartino did in his first reign. It's like there's no way that he could ever be the number one. But Gunther is the number one, shattering that 34-year-old record. I think ended in August 1988 and was broken in September 2023. So it had been a long time, nearly the entire span of my lifetime on Earth, that this has stood, and he is the number one guy. Like, you cannot take that away from him. It will be a long time before somebody even sniffs surpassing Gunther. So, I want to say Sami Zayn, because I do think it's time. In terms, but last year I thought it was time for Roman Reigns, and in hindsight, I was actually wrong. It really it makes a lot more sense to actually have Cody go through the year of struggle to get back. And ultimately he's still struggling right up until he gets that match, with Roman on Sunday night. He still has to go through one more final obstacle, one more final boss. He had to go through Brock Lesnar. He had to go through the Judgment Day. He had to, go through the title thing, the tag titles with Jey Uso and get screwed out of those. There's been a lot that he's gone through, and ultimately he's going to have to go through one more hurdle. But Gunther, I feel like it's time, but I don't feel like Sami Zayn has been able to recapture that magic. I don't think they've been able to do the lightning in the bottle twice with him that they had in 2023. It almost feels like, like they should have been having Sami, for a much longer time, not doubting himself and not believing in himself, which makes me think that this match probably would have initially been scheduled in for Brock Lesnar before that whole entire thing happened in January. it doesn't feel, it feels shoehorned. And I feel like, when you're talking about a title reign of this historic magnitude, for it to end on anything other than like your hottest, next up and coming, Intercontinental champion is kind of, it's lame. So I'm going to go with Gunther retaining here. I want to say Sami Zayn, but I'm talking myself out of it. I'm going to go with Gunther is going to retain because I think Sami, like Cody, has to go through a little more doubt, and the people have to believe in that story a little more than they are right now. They did a great job, a real hell of an effort on Monday night with that Rocky training segment with him and Chad Gable. But I think having Chad Gable involved in it in this way gives them that out so that Sami can keep something when he ultimately loses, especially if Chad Gable were to like join Imperium or something like that.
Oh, okay. All right. So 2 for Gunther. You guys are slowly trying to get me to say Gunther. Jerome's prediction is actually Sami. So Jerome says Sami Zayn gets the win. I agree in large part with what Mike just mentioned in terms of having a historic title reign like this. Whoever beats Gunther has to be the next big top babyface star. I completely agree with that. With that said, I am going to contradict myself. And I'm going to say we get a cash in. And I think we get a cash in on this one. I think Damian Priest cashes in, gets the win. They hinted at this a couple of weeks back, or maybe a month ago or so, when they had that face-off.
Yes.
And I think ultimately that's what we get. I don't see Damian Priest cashing in on whoever wins the main event of night 2. I don't see him cashing in versus Drew or Seth. Or maybe I do, but I hope he doesn't. I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to go we get a cash in. Damian Priest. Just because I don't think it's going to be a very good night for the Judgment Day. I think they're going to lose the tag titles. Rhea gets the win, but them losing the tag titles is really going to kind of shake them. And after Priest's promo last Friday on SmackDown, when he said WrestleMania is not just for the Judgment Day as a whole, but individually as well, that got me thinking, okay, potential cash in.
And they did set the precedent that Money in the Bank could be cash in for, a quote unquote mid-card title when Austin Theory cashed in for the United States Championship.
Yeah. And they even had Charlotte one year go up against Rhea, right? WrestleMania 36.
Women's Championship.
So, look, I could be very wrong. If it's not Priest, I'm going to agree with Alex and Mike. I take Gunther wins if we don't get a cash in, but I'm going to go with the cash in on this one.
Yeah, I was. There's one other point I wanted to interject with real quick on this particular matchup because I'd been noticing, and I realized like Gunther's just about ready to go up to like the main event level. Like he's on that level as far as I can tell. But I also it's almost weird to say this because I've been so used to a certain way of thinking with wrestling that he has to lose the Intercontinental title to move up to the main event title. But something I want like, especially, and for those watching to keep in mind, we're booking under Triple H's reign now. And Triple H is not above having someone do all they can with the title and vacate it to move on. Case in point, Asuka. Asuka vacated the NXT Women's Championship to move on to the main roster to do all that when she made her main roster debut. He's not above doing something like that. And if there was ever a case where someone might do that on the main roster without moving up from NXT, it could be Gunther, who said, I've beaten all that I've beaten everybody that I could possibly beat. There's literally nobody left for me to beat. And he finally vacates the Intercontinental Championship with the understanding that he's going to challenge next for a world championship. That's a possibility.
That's definitely a good point too. Going back to the Money in the Bank thing though too, they have put a lot of time and effort into position not just the Intercontinental title, but also the United States Championship, held by Logan Paul. Who I think arguably is one of the biggest superstars in the company. Having them hold these titles intrinsically gives it, for Gunther, for how long he's held it and how important he's made it seem, and Logan Paul for his superstardom, having that title just elevates it. I think to have Damian Priest cash in Money in the Bank, especially because they did tease it on Raw like a month ago, like Roy was saying as well, to have Damian Priest cash in for the Intercontinental title makes it feel like the Intercontinental title is an important enough title to cash in for. It should, I think they've done a good enough job where the audience will see him cash in if this is what happens. They will see him cash in for the Intercontinental title and not make it seem like it's a consolation prize because they don't want to interfere with Drew and CM Punk, or Seth and CM Punk and Drew, and Roman Reigns and Cody's story. Because I don't think that Damian Priest should be. I don't think Damian Priest is the superstar, the caliber of interfering, cashing in on Cody Rhodes anyway. I think that would just be like a horrible end to the show if that were to ever happen. So having him cash in for the Intercontinental title shouldn't feel like a consolation prize. It should feel like Gunther held this title for so long, and now he's viewed as a world championship quality contender. I want the same for me. I want the Intercontinental title because I want to be there next year. And make it like an Ultimate Warrior kind of thing.
And
there's a lot of ways that can go. That's why, I just love the way Triple H is booking things, because there is such, or even just the vacating thing. Like the fact that he's not afraid to vacate, that Asuka was coming up to the main roster, and they didn't say like, okay, well, we have to have a match where Asuka loses now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that Triple H cares for the Intercontinental title belt. We know that he cares for the US title belt. And by doing this, as you mentioned, it gives importance to that belt even more. And at the same time, Gunther kind of, you get the belt off him and he still looks very strong, because you could have Priest pin Zayn and Gunther's like, well, I never got pinned for the belt. I never lost. Right. And then, as Alex mentioned, he's a main event guy. You elevate him. So you absolutely do that. All right. Guys, you know where this leads us? It leads us to...
Are we already there?
We're already there.
Oh my God, we are already... No, wait, we skipped one.
Did we? Wait.
LWO, bro.
Sorry. Yes. My mistake. You got me. I completely missed that. LWO versus Santos Escobar and Dirty Dominik Mysterio. Mike, you called it. You want to go first?
Sure, I'd love to. Okay. This is another one that feels very rushed and not a lot of thought put into it. I love Dragon Lee. I want him to have a showcase match. I love Santos Escobar. I want him to have a showcase match. We got to get rid of that guy. But to rehash Dirty Dom and Ray out of nowhere, essentially. He's been talking about his deadbeat dad forever. But for them to move to the next level of having another WrestleMania match just kind of feels like Dirty Dom had other plans for WrestleMania that seem to have gotten canceled. So they're just doing this. I think LWO. I think Ray and Dragon Lee are going to go over here, because I think Dragon Lee is. I think they're looking to ultimately get that Rey Mysterio rub on him to endorse him as the next superstar, masked superstar.
Okay. All right. Alex, you agree with Mike?
Well, honestly, this one is tough, because I was thinking a lot about last year. It's like the reason why Dirty Dom's even in this match is to me it's a nice sequel of sorts to the match that they had last year. I also like that because Dominic's involved in this match, there's a little bit of tension between him and the rest of Judgment Day in light of that, because now it's like, oh, well, now you're just hanging out with these other guys in the LDF, and it's like for Dom, this is all about, the way I see it at least, for Dom, this is all about getting revenge on his father for what went down last year. And for that reason, I'm kind of leaning towards Dom and Santos winning, because to me it feels like if Dom doesn't get a win over his father, if Dom doesn't get a win over his father in this tag match, it almost, I don't know if devalues is the right words, but it feels a little pointless to me to specifically pick Dominik to be involved in this particular angle in this particular match. But I can also see the points being made about why LWO could end up winning this. So it's a tough call. I'm siding with the baddies in this one. But I'm also just excited as all get out for the match itself, because honestly, I really enjoyed watching Ray versus Dom last year, and all four of these guys are real fun to watch work in the ring. So I think the match itself is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think he makes some really, really good points there. Like why bring in Dirty Dom? The argument is that he's brought in just because it just gives a little extra to the match to have Ray and Dom. I guess if they're afraid to pull the trigger on Santos versus Dragon, you can certainly add in those two, and it'll be a fine match. The danger of this match, though, is that it just feels so thrown together at the last minute that it can go any direction. So the predictions are all up in the air right now.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
This is a difficult one to call, I think. Just because more than anything, just the lack of buildup to it, in my opinion, it does feel kind of shoehorned in, so to speak, as Mike put it. I'm gonna have to side with Alex on this one. I think Dominik has to get the win. Dominik Mysterio, Santos Escobar. Although, as Mike mentioned, they're really trying to push Dragon Lee. I think Ray's the one that gets pinned on this one. I think he takes the loss for his team. I think Dom gets the win. I think he has to get the win in terms of just a reward for everything he's done the past year. He's the biggest heel in the company. He's the one that everybody loves to boo, essentially. He gets the loudest reactions in that sense. And they have to continue to capitalize on it. He needs the win, I think. He hasn't really gotten a big win in a while. I can't remember the last time that happened. And as Alex mentioned, he needs to get a win against his father. He has to get the win against his dad. So I think Dom gets the win. He pins his dad. Clean or not, I don't know. Quentin Walters says in the chat, he says, heels win, Carlito turns on the LWO. I mean, it's a possibility. That could certainly happen. Jorge says, Dominik wins to set up the hair versus mask match at Backlash.
Oh my gosh, yes. if you're talking Dom versus Ray, yes, please. I feel like Ray's even addressed like stuff like that in past interviews where it's like if he's gonna do, because like there was a point in which he seemed to be like clearly like it kind of felt like it was maybe more part of the build towards that WrestleMania match, but there were moments when he was like kind of not wanting to wrestle against Dom, even in the midst of like Dom turning against him. But I think in other interviews he said that like he could, at the very least, he's talked about like essentially passing on, elements of like who he is as a wrestler as far as his career to his son, So it's entirely possible that they could have an actual blow-off match that spells the swan song for Ray's career as we know it. And I would love to see a hair versus mask match if that was the case, because those Apuestas matches are always exciting to see play out.
Yeah. Well, we might get another one: Dom versus Ray, hair versus career, or both. Who knows? You
never know. I mean that would be special. I think you save it to SummerSlam if that's the case, or so you kind of maybe this does kind of build to like a Ray versus Dom trilogy. Dom gets the win here, and and then they ultimately have one last blow off match either next year at WrestleMania or at SummerSlam.
Yeah,
you guys got me thinking. Now I think I made the wrong choice, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to eat it.
It's all right. You never know what could happen, what they might end up doing. All right, and now this does bring us to the main event. By the way, am I the only one that realizes last year's night one main event was a tag team match, and this year's night one main event is a tag team match?
That's only because they can't get Stone Cold back for another match, I guess.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Austin's like, I did my one last match. You guys got me to do the thing with Owens a couple years ago. I'm good. We're done.
I'm good.
What?
I'm good. I'm good for now. I'm good for now.
Man, this is a.
Is this the? I know. I mean, hyperbole, all that stuff. Is this the biggest tag team, or is this the biggest WrestleMania main event we've had in a while?
I think this is the biggest tag team match to ever main event a WrestleMania, aside from Hogan and Mr. T versus Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful. Because, I mean, that launched WrestleMania, and I think this tag team match is going to take WrestleMania into the next, into its next 40 years, perhaps. You know, this is a brand new regime. This is a brand new way of storytelling. This is brilliant.
Okay. All right. So, Mike, you went first for the last match. Alex, what do you think?
Well, to answer your question, I think that the slight cynic in me wants to say that The Rock would certainly like you to believe that this is the biggest tag team match in WrestleMania history. There's truth to that, though. I can't stop thinking about all the jokes that I could make about like The Rock making that hype for this match. I'm like, this is as big a tag match for WrestleMania as Black Adam was as a DC movie. But jokes aside, I am very excited for this match because The Rock has brought a lot to the table since he's like made his return. And I'm genuinely excited to see what happens because there's two sides to this, and it makes this match as tough to call as any other because on the one hand, Cody Rhodes, if Cody and Seth overcome the bloodline, that means that the bloodline's barred from the ring on night 2, right? And there's a lot that could be said about that. There's stuff that could be set up the next night because of that. But on the other hand, you have what they're kind of half promising, half threatening to do on night 2 if The Rock and Reigns win, which is, you get the Bloodline Rules match on night 2, which means anything goes. We got like a teaser of that. I think to the point you guys made on Monday, I feel like they could have teased us a little bit more what could actually happen, but I think they did the best with what they had going on that particular night. That said, I think that The Rock and Roman Reigns are going to win this particular tag match. They're going to set up the Bloodline Rules match, if only because that just adds a little bit more to the heap, to the hurdle that Cody has to like get over to finish his story on night 2. So for me, that almost necessitates the Bloodline winning this particular tag match on night 1.
Okay. All right. Now let me ask you another question. I'm going to ask Mike the exact same thing. Who gets the pin? Who takes the loss?
I think this is tough. I'm gonna say Cody ends up taking the pin. That's a very tough call. Yeah. But I think I gotta go with Cody actually taking the pin on that one. And I would even be so brave as to say that Rock pins Cody. If I'm being completely honest, it's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out. But I for the sake of answering the question, that's what I gotta go with. I think Cody's gonna take the fall on that one.
Okay, all right. I know I kind of put you on the spot there, Alex, but fair. Mike.
Oh boy, oh man. Okay. Number one, I do have easily the Bloodline going over here. I think when they did that segment on Raw where Dwayne Johnson beat Cody Rhodes to a bloody pulp, I don't think you could settle this feud, and I don't think you could settle Cody's ultimate journey with a clean, straight up wrestling match at this point. We did that last year. How do we up the ante? We got to do Bloodline Rules. and it only makes sense because of just how the violence has upticked. To me, it would be the equivalent of Triple H breaks into Randy Orton's house, or Randy Orton breaks into Triple H's house, or whatever it was. I forget how it went at WrestleMania 25. Ultimately, Randy Orton winds up getting thrown out. Triple H broke into Orton's house and he throws him out his window and he's beating him crazy. And then they do a main event where the title can change hands on disqualification, so Triple H can't use weapons, and it was a popcorn fart of a main event. It really ruined that WrestleMania for me. Even though it had Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, that ultimately, because of how it ended, it ultimately looked at as like a bad WrestleMania with a great match in it. Kind of like WrestleMania 13 with Brett and Steve. It's like horrible WrestleMania. What a phenomenal match that one time, in that entire night. So yeah, Bloodline's got to go over here because they upped the ante, and we got to get Cody Rhodes going through all those hurdles. Now, to Roy's question, this is really the big one here. Who takes the pin? Oh, man. I'm going to actually say, because a couple weeks ago they had Drew McIntyre pin Cody Rhodes. And they made a big deal about it. This is the first time Cody's been pinned since the main event of WrestleMania 39. And I don't think it would be incredibly short-sighted to, give away that, on a random Monday Night Raw, even though it is against Drew McIntyre. But it would actually probably have been more impactful if they had just not had Cody get pinned at all until, it would almost be like, back-to-back years where it's happening now. It's like the story is feeling like it's unraveling again. Cody hasn't been pinned all year, and then he gets to WrestleMania and gets pinned again. So I actually think in order to set up this ultimate downfall that I have in my head, that I'm booking myself in my own brain, of Seth Rollins basically just disintegrating into this violent heap of this character that he has right now. The downfall has to start tonight, or on Saturday night. I think Seth Rollins gets pinned by The Rock.
Wow. Seth Rollins gets pinned by The Rock.
And then you can have Drew McIntyre rub it in his face, and
you see, I want to agree with that, even though I won't, but I want to. The only reason is because I feel like in this entire match, and I watched Raw, I saw the promo and everything, Seth is almost like an afterthought out of these four. And to have him take the pin, it was just kind of like, in my opinion anyways, it's almost like adding insult to injury. Like, hey, you're in this match because we need a fourth guy, so you're here, you're going to take the pin. Oh, by the way, you're probably going to lose your belt the next night. You know what I mean? So, I don't know.
If Cody were to win, it does set up a natural opponent for him now, because, hey, you know what? Like, I came to bat for you in night one, and you let me get beat. Like, let's say that Cody's distracted by something going on outside that's happening here and can't make it to the ring to save Seth. And then it ultimately kills his confidence and he winds up losing the title. I mean, a paranoid, furious, angry Seth Rollins kind of kicks off a brand new first title opponent for Cody. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Maybe. No. Maybe. Look, I'm not. God, this really is fantasy booking. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna ultimately agree with Alex. I think The Rock pins Cody, and this is all gonna blow off with the feud of The Rock versus Roman Reigns. I was able to pin Cody, and maybe Roman doesn't. But I'm more intrigued, to be very honest. Obviously, all of this is very interesting. It's all very intriguing from every possible angle. I want to know how The Rock survives this match, how Dwayne Johnson survives this match, because the last time he was at WrestleMania, was it 11, 12 years ago now, We all saw what happened versus John Cena, the injuries and all this stuff. Granted, this is a tag team match. He's going to be protected. How is he going to perform? What's going to happen? But I think he's the one that gets the pin. I think the final boss gets the pin over the American Nightmare. I don't know how much interference we're going to get in this one between Solo and Jimmy, and if Jey gets involved as well. But biggest tag team match of all time, potentially. I think The Rock gets the pin.
How about this? Do we think there'll be blood?
Yes.
It's Philadelphia.
I think there's blood. And you know what? I don't know how his contracts are, but does The Rock take the cut? Does The Rock bleed?
I think ultimately The Rock will have to bleed.
Yeah. Does Cody make The Rock bleed? That's the big thing. Because Cody will.
Rock didn't like any of what you were just saying there. We missed you for a second.
I know it was me. I was waiting for Alex.
I don't know what just happened. I think The Rock does bleed. Anyways, I forget where we were at, but because I was talking for a couple of seconds. But I think The Rock bleeds. Yeah, I think we have to.
It's a fascinating main event, really. In many ways, probably more fascinating than night 2. I don't know, but it's you know what? Getting back to what you said though about The Rock and injuries and things like that. ESPN had a really great article today about how The Rock has been preparing for this and how he set up almost like a training camp, like you would if you were training for an actual fight. He had 2 rings set up, in LA. They flew people out there so he could, essentially spar with them. And Michael Hayes was out there directing all the action. They've been going through this meticulously for a few weeks. And yeah, I mean, look, it's like those things like in baseball where you can run a whole bunch of drills, but God, when it gets to game time and you're trying to hustle down to first base on a chopper and you ultimately pull your hamstring, there's just never any substitute for an actual game time action, because anything can happen. But I think they're going out of their way to be supremely careful with The Rock, because even in his prime, when he was in his mid-20s, in wrestling in the WWF full time, he had a tendency, especially in his hamstrings, for muscle injuries. I know he tore his pec at some point. He tore his hamstring, and of course he tore his basically his abdomen right off the bone at WrestleMania 29. But I'm talking like in his full time prime, he still was prone to muscle injuries, and I think that's ultimately what derailed his football career too.
Could be because of that. Yeah. Taking a look at the chat, so Jorge says Rock pins Seth to set up the loss for Seth's title and blames Cody, which is the eventual heel turn. And Quentin Walter says blood out of The Rock. So there you go. But we all agree Rock and Roman Reigns gets the win on this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect. And
yeah.
Jerome mentioned as well. Bloodline wins. I think we have to. Yeah. I think that's ultimately what's gonna happen here. Fellas, overall, night 1. Alice, I'll ask you this because I know we're gonna do that little switch in just a little bit. Are you more looking forward to night 1 or night 2?
That's a tough one. Both nights have really strong cards, but I think I'm definitely excited as I'll get out for night 1. That's for darn sure. And I think every once in a while, just the potential booking ideas for a particular match always especially excite me, and that's why I've been kind of hung up a little bit on the whole on the ladder match thing, just because of what the possibilities are. So I'm certainly very excited for night 1, but I'm also excited to see where the story with Cody and Roman goes on night 2. So it's tough to call.
It like last year, even though the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn victory over Jey and Jimmy, definitely tied into the Bloodline storyline. It still felt like, two separate WrestleManias that just happened to be on the back to back on the same weekend. Here, it's like, because you have this tag match that directly impacts the night 2 main event, it's almost like a bridge to night 2, where now it feels like one contiguous WrestleMania with just a really long intermission in between. I can't say that I'm excited for either night. I think I'm just excited for the entire event itself, because I think they built it so well that it just feels like one cohesive WrestleMania than just like 2 different shows happening all on the same weekend. Yeah. Because I was like last year, I thought night 1 of WrestleMania last year was might have been like just judged on its own, apart from night 2, is like really up there in like my top 10 favorite WrestleManias of all time. I thought it was that damn good that night, that whole event.
Yeah, it's
same with night 1 of WrestleMania 38 with Steve Austin coming back, because I thought that was the best thing that happened that weekend, and it was just like that was the best WrestleMania of the weekend. The second WrestleMania that happened wasn't as good.
Yeah, fair.
But they weren't the same show. They didn't feel like they were part of the same show.
No, and there's always, whoever I've been talking to since they started doing these 2 nights, there's always a clear favorite when it comes to like, oh, which night was better. It's always like night 1 was better, night 2 was better. There's never really like that, oh, you know what, both were amazing, I can't decide. It's almost as if one is always clearly better than the other. Night 1 is building up to be better than night 2. I think the only thing that could make night 2 better than night 1 is the main event. The way they end the show. I think that's going to be.
I think that second night is all about the main event.
Yeah, it is. And then we're going to talk about night 2 and the card on night 2. But yeah, I think the main event makes night 2. If you were to get rid of that main event, if you get rid of Cody versus Roman night 2, night 1 barely feels like a WrestleMania. Barely feels like, and it I hate to say it because I'm extremely very much looking forward to it, but the excitement on night 1, I don't know, they're building it up to be a little bit better, but who knows what's going to happen for night 2.
We shall see. We shall see.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Cars, we thank you so much, sir.
Sure, thank you for having me. I'm very excited for this weekend. Realizing this is the 40th WrestleMania, realizing all the history kind of building up to it. And it's like, in some ways, they very much are playing, like, they're playing into that history. Very much so going into this weekend. And that's pretty exciting in itself. But yeah, thank you for having me.
Anytime, Alex. Glad you could make it. I'll explain a little bit to everybody watching us. So we are going to do a little tag here. So Alex is going to tag out. We already have Alex's predictions.
Reaching out for the tag. Right. Our buddy Jerome.
For the hot tag. He's going to make the tag to Jerome. Is he going to make the tag? Take it easy. Bye, Alex. Talk to you in a bit. All right.
Oh, he made the tag. He made the tag.
He got the tag. He made the tag. We did it. Excellent. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So we got Jerome Weiland, our roving news reporter, here with us now for night 2 predictions for WrestleMania.
Yep.
All right, Jerome. Right off the bat, before we get to it, what are you looking forward to the most? Night 1 or night 2?
Gosh, probably night 2.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll
see the big culmination of the story, or is there a match in particular that you're looking forward to?
The main event, definitely the Cody Roman match, because my prediction is going to make a lot of people go. I mean, call me an idiot, I'm sure, but we'll see.
Well, you never know. If you could back it up with the right explanation, we might be the ones that are idiots, not you. We might be called idiots.
I've been going over in my head, all day thinking about. I wonder. We just need to have something different.
All right. So let's get to night 2. Mike, what do you think opens the show?
On night 2? Let me look at the card. I'm going to say Logan Paul, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens open night 2.
And then that's what we're going to kick off for this one.
I'm good, man.
There you go.
I mean, it very well could be LA Knight, and AJ Styles as well, but and just get that crowd reaction going for LA Knight immediately. But we'll see. But I think that could be a worthy opener.
Fair enough. All right, Jerome, what do you think about this one? Predictions?
I think Logan Paul retains.
Logan retains?
I just don't see Randy Orton getting the title. I just don't see him putting on Kevin Owens. Logan Paul is a great heel. I love his mic work that I've seen. He's a good he just knows how to antagonize the crowd. And I just think he's going to retain. And he's not. I thought he was going to be a transitional champion at first, but he's proven not to be. He's actually a good main eventer. I like it. Again, I like his mic work. His in-ring work is great. He really impressed me the first time I saw him. He retains. Logan Paul will still be your United States champion after that match.
All right. All right.
Is that yours, Jerome?
No.
Why'd you assume it wasn't mine?
I know that you protect yourself here. You protect yourself.
I don't know.
Okay, I gotta say, I just saw what Jorge put down that Seth versus Drew opens, and it just unlocked like a whole stream of possibilities for me now. I actually, you know what? I think Seth and Drew could open the show,
Maybe
no matter what. But I can't get to my prediction yet. But now I see Seth Rollins stomping Cody Rhodes in the main event for a false finish. I'm sensing it now. My child screaming at me.
We'll go back to the triple threat U.S. title match. I'll give my prediction. It'll give you time to think a little bit.
Yes, please. Yes. And let me go handle this child. You can take me off of this broadcast for a second. Let me go.
All good.
I'm a very dynamic father. My child loves me. So
all right. We'll see you in a bit, Mike. All right, there you go. Actually, yes, and this is something Quentin brings up in the chat is will the Prime bottle be the centerpiece of the ring? I think it will be, right? Yeah. Logan mentioned it on SmackDown a couple weeks back or a month back now. So yeah, this is gonna be different. It's gonna be different. As for this one here, Jerome, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I think we absolutely keep the same champion walking into the show. Walking into the match. Logan's impressed me. He's impressed me more than actually most active regular superstars on the roster. He's a tremendous talent, a great athlete. He gets the business. And you could tell he gets the business very well. I'm just curious to see if he's going to become more of a regular on the show as opposed to being there maybe every 2 or 3 weeks. I think he's going to be there every single week. But he's been putting in the effort. He's been putting in a shift, especially the last month or so. He's been showing up. I'm looking forward to seeing him more as a champion. I think he gets the win. And I think probably Kevin Owens takes the loss on this one. I think he's kind of the odd man out for me. I would prefer maybe a one-on-one match between Logan and Orton. I understand why they have Kevin Owens in this. But I think Logan Paul retains, pinning Kevin Owens for the championship. And talking about championships and champions, we have our champion back, Mr. Mike Tedesco, right on cue.
How about that?
Look at that. 2 predictions for Logan Paul. You had time to think. You had time to.
I've had time to think and consider. And look, I just can't imagine that they're going to have Prime Energy sponsoring WrestleMania and seeing. I just don't see Logan Paul getting pinned on top of a Prime Energy logo. So I actually think that Logan Paul is ultimately going to win this match. And the only other option that I could see is Randy Orton pinning Kevin Owens and Logan Paul doesn't take the loss.
Okay.
But I think there's a lot more for Logan Paul to do with this title. I don't think he's held it long enough, and I don't think he's had more than a not even a handful of defenses, really. I think he just basically faced Kevin Owens for the title at Rumble, and he hasn't defended it since. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I that's true.
So look, you're not putting the title on Logan Paul just to have him, have one defense, and then
because he was part of the Elimination Chamber match that
Correct.
he didn't win, and he didn't defend it on SmackDown or anywhere else. So yeah, you're right.
Correct. He beat Rey Mysterio for it at Crown Jewel. Then he defended it at Royal Rumble against Kevin Owens and won by disqualification. So he hasn't even had a clean win with the title yet. And his only other, he did have a match against The Miz and pinned The Miz, but it was not for the title. And then wound up losing at Elimination Chamber. So no successful title defenses yet. He's got to have one. Otherwise, it's just kind of like a pointless exercise to have the title on him. So I think he's got to win.
Okay, all right. So we're 3 for 3. Taking a look at Alex's predictions. Alex says Logan Paul. Part of his reasoning, which honestly I completely agree with. He says, I do not see Orton winning the U.S. title in 2024. And while I'm a Kevin Owens fan, I don't see him winning it either. So almost kind of like by default, Logan wins it. And I agree with that.
Yeah. And look, it would be like a nice, comeback win for Randy Orton to be victorious at WrestleMania for a title, because God only knows how many more WrestleManias he has in that body. It took him a long time to get back. But I just don't see him coming. I think it's got to be Logan Paul. You can't be giving trophies at this point. This is, it's WWE, and they got to be forward thinking. They got to be thinking about the future. They actually already gave Randy Orton a retirement ceremony with that celebration of 20 years of Orton 2 years ago or whatever it was. So, hey, it's time. Logan Paul's the future. Give it, he's got to go over here.
All right. We're 4 for 4. All 4 of us say Logan Paul.
All right.
Mike, what do you have up next for us?
I thought you were throwing up the graphics here.
Well, I could do it. I don't mind. But do you have conjure up your thoughts? What's going to happen between Rollins and Drew? Are we going to that? Are we going to LA Knight, AJ? What do you think?
Let's go with Io Sky versus Bailey. Actually, because this one I'm interested to hear what everybody else thinks. I don't know what the hell to think about this one yet.
I'll go first. I'll go first for this one. Obviously, there's a story behind this. There's a build to it. It's been going on since the start of Damage Control. What is it? SummerSlam 2022, is it? About a year and a half ago now. So it's been about a year and a half in the making, right? Io Sky, Bailey. Bailey had her Royal Rumble moment, and out of the 4 horsewomen, she's the only one that has not main evented or technically headlined a WrestleMania. I think she's going to get her WrestleMania moment. I think Io Sky's title run has been, I don't want to say underwhelming, but it definitely hasn't been great. Aside from that one match, was it at Backlash? Was it Io Sky and I can't remember who?
Oh, yeah, Io Sky and Bianca Belair.
Bianca Belair. There you go. And even that was about a year ago now. Was it May or June of last year?
Yeah, late April.
Late April. Sorry. So I think it's got to be Bailey. She has to have her moment. Well deserved. A year and a half in the making. She's never been that female star for the brand. I don't think ever. It's always been Charlotte or Becky, or to a certain extent Sasha, but never just her. And I think now's the time for it to be just her. So I'm going to go with Bailey, and cue the fireworks for her.
I like that one, Jerome. What say you?
I'm going to go with Bailey. I think Io Sky's just been boring. Time for Bailey to have her moment at WrestleMania.
I actually I agree with that. I think of all the horsewomen, I think Bailey has the least amount of career highlights. Charlotte's had her fill. Becky Lynch has had her fill. What's her face has had her fill. Can't even say the name. But Bayley has kind of been like that one she's always been there. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Winning the Royal Rumble, definitely career highlight. I think you gotta finish it off with a win here. Yeah. And look, is she a full-fledged face right now? Not yet. But
no.
I think this is the start to getting there.
There you go. Hopefully, yeah. I think so too. And the fans are slowly getting behind her. And even when she won the Rumble, there were a lot of cheers. A lot of people cheering her on. We all fed Bayley. And looking at Alex's prediction, he had told us that, or he told me anyways, Bayley as well. So another unanimous decision, 4-4. Bayley walks out of Philadelphia as the WWE Women's Champion. All right, moving on. Let's get to one that was just kind of thrown together. In my opinion, I thought this would make the pre-show or the kickoff. I don't know what they're calling it these days, but instead it makes night 2. The 6-man tag team Philadelphia Street Fight. I'll say that quickly 5 times. Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits against Final Testament. Mike, very, very enthusiastic. It's same.
Yeah, it's like I want to like the Final Testament. I really do. I don't hate the presentation. I love Paul Ellering, Hall of Fame manager. Honestly, Precious Paul, WrestleMania 40, his first time performing his duties as a manager at a WrestleMania, right? You've never been to a WrestleMania before. I think he was only at WrestleMania 8 in 1992, and it was kind of like, oh, the Legion of Doom is back, or the Road Warrior, whatever they're calling him in WWF. I go back and forth, but we're back, and and then they had the big entrance at SummerSlam '92, but he's never actually performed at WrestleMania, so I think that's pretty cool. That's why I want to like this. I love Angelo Dawkins. I love Montez Ford. I think they are supremely athletic, but I just don't think that this pride gimmick is doing them any favors. And I don't think that, honestly, I think that the biggest handicap of the Final Testament is Karrion Kross being involved with it. I think this, it's like, again, that's a guy who's got a good look. They put a lot in the entrance, and the entrance is great. But as soon as the bell rings, it's bad news. It never comes together. Like, I remember him fumbling through that cage match or whatever it was with Drew McIntyre, about a year and a half ago or whatever it was, when they brought him back. And I was like, God, it's just like, when that bell rings, it's empty. There's just not a lot of substance there. So I think just having him associated with this hurts it. I wish they could find another guy for it, rather than him. But I think part of his charm is having Scarlett at ringside. I think people like that. That said, who is going to win this match? This to me is very much like the LWO versus Legado del Fantasma, or Santos and Dom, because he's not really part of LDF. It's like it's one of those that's just like so thrown together. It could go any way, and it could screw up your entire predictions thing, because it's like they can go back and forth because it's just kind of thrown together. I'm going with Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits.
Okay.
Over the Final Testament.
Yeah.
I think Angela Dawkins and Montez Ford have a lot more to gain than I think Karrion Kross is already maxed out, and I think AOP has to kind of pay for that cluster F of an indie show they tried to put together in England a couple, when they were, and they screwed a lot of people. I think they got to pay the price. It's got to be at WrestleMania, brother.
Gosh, I actually completely forgot about that.
Time to pay the price.
Yeah. This is just a match that I don't know how much excitement there is. This is on SmackDown. I follow SmackDown, more in depth maybe, or, it's part of my duties, let's say, so to speak. And I want to like this. I like Bobby Lashley. I like the Street Profits. Them together on paper is a good thing. Hasn't really resulted to much, to be honest.
I mean, let's be honest. Bobby Lashley hasn't done anything of substance since having the title 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He's done almost nothing.
Zero. Like, honestly, zero at all. And I look at the other side of it, Final Testament. Again, great presentation, as you said, but once that bell rings, it just doesn't work for whatever reason. It doesn't work. And, this will be a fight. You're talking about 6 big guys that will probably beat the living crap out of each other. But I think ultimately, I don't think it matters who wins and who loses. Unfortunately, and I say that. I'm not happy saying it, but I don't think it changes anything.
And really, ultimately, it's just like, this is like classic WWE booking, like this is something that Vince would do, and it's bled into the new regime. It's like, we're in Philly, got to do a hardcore match. EC-Dub, EC-Dub. So there you go.
Yeah.
You got your hardcore match. I think it's going to be wild. I don't think it's going to be bad. I actually think it has the potential to be quite good, because I think, Montez Ford will take some wild risks. And I think Akim and Razor have proven themselves in hardcore matches. They had that excellent ladder match against DIY in NXT. I think in 2018 in Chicago, I think it was. So like, these guys are talented and they're willing to take risks as well. So I think it could be quite good. But am I looking forward to it? No. Am I expecting to be pleasantly surprised by it? Sure. Am I expecting it to be a good smoke and mirrors hardcore WWE style match? Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm gonna go same thing. I think the Pride wins, and I think Bobby Lashley gets the pin.
Jerome, what say you, my friend?
This is my bathroom break night 2 match. So I think the Pride go over, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see AOP turn on Karrion Kross, just because he's so dull and just needs to maybe go to NXT and get repackaged or something. I don't know. He's just not.
I think if AOP turns on Kross, that's the end of Kross.
He's just not there. I mean, when he was Killer Kross in Impact Wrestling, or now, TNA now, but I mean, he was okay. But since coming to WWE, he just hasn't had it. He just doesn't have that it factor.
Yeah, I agree. So you're going to go with the Pride as well, Jerome?
I am.
Yeah. He's all look, but God, when that bell rings, there's just not much there. And I think he could hide on a roster like Impact Wrestling's roster, where he's good enough to stand out. Because he's got that look. Yeah. He can stand out a bunch amongst a group of guppies, like not to impugn TNA, Impact Wrestling, whatever they want to call themselves these days. But there's not a lot of big fish in that pond.
Right.
So he can stand out and look killer. Killer Kross. But when you get to WWE, you got to have a little more. You just got to have.
You gotta have it.
If you're not good at the in-ring stuff, you better have a good personality. And if your personality is all tied into your wife's breast implants, you ain't doing it. It ain't happening. So
yeah. So see, I'm reading Alex's predictions, and he has a different twist to this, and this would make a lot more sense than a lot of other theories. But so essentially, Alex is saying he thinks Final Testament get the win, and he says, to me, this is less about who wins the match and more about who takes the fall. He says, I see Final Testament winning, and I could see the former Street Profits growing apart, with Dawkins taking the fall here and Ford having issues with him over it. So that is very interesting. If Dawkins does end up getting the loss, could we see the start of the end, the beginning of the end of the Street Profits? Dawkins takes the loss for the team. Ford gets pissed off at him about it, and they split apart. Alex with the theory, it's not a bad one. It would kind of make sense.
That would imply that there's little more thought put into this match, which I don't want to accuse them of that. I don't want to give them that much credit for this one. I think this is literally just here to be your token ECW style match on a WWE show because it's Philadelphia and Paul Heyman got inducted in the Hall of Fame. And I think somebody could build off of it, but I don't think it's happening on WrestleMania. I think if something like that's going to happen, it's not going to be because of this match, but this match might be one bump on the road to eventually getting there. I don't think anything definitive is going to happen in this match.
Okay. All right. Excellent. We got three more matches left. We'll leave the last two as the championships. I'm going to get to this one, and I'm going to kick things off, if you guys don't mind. But LA Knight versus AJ Styles.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen this. I mean, I saw this feud coming from a mile away, right? From before the Rumble even. This had WrestleMania written all over it. These are two veterans, two guys that are good in the ring, that know how to work, that the fans are behind. Fans are really behind both. LA Knight's a fan favorite. Fans still like AJ Styles. Both men look absolutely great, fantastic shape. And I feel like they both maybe feel like they have something to prove. Like maybe they've been overlooked because AJ Styles they haven't done much with AJ Styles in a long, long time. LA Knight, red hot, gets put on the back burner. They have a solid feud. They've really tried with this, with the home invasion attack minus the Brian Pillman has a gun. They did try the home invasion attack. I'm very much looking forward to this match. I think it's going to be hard hitting. I don't know who wins. This is legit one of the only matches on both cards where I look at it and I can easily see both guys going over. You can make a case for both. If I had to pick, which I guess I do have to, I'm going to go with AJ Styles. AJ gets the win, but I don't think this is over. And to quote Steve Austin, this ain't over, not by a long shot. So I'm going to go with AJ on this one.
Actually, I was doing a little research on this because I was kind of curious as to, both these guys, definitely. I mean, AJ Styles obviously did some time in TNA, and right there, two of TNA Impact's finest sharing the big stage WrestleMania. I was like, of course, I think they intersected in their time in Impact Wrestling together. They've never fought outside of WWE. Never. I was shocked by that. I would have thought there would have been an Eli Drake versus AJ Styles match, but there never has been. So really, other than the match, I think it was in January they did a LA Knight versus AJ Styles. This really hasn't been done before, and two veterans. You would think two veterans that took a long time to make it to the big time in WWE that they would have intersected at some point. It's never happened. So. Just for that, my curiosity is piqued by this. LA Knight, he was, ultra hot. Heading into like Money in the Bank last year around that time, just unbelievable amounts of excitement and heat around him. God, even when he was having to face Bray Wyatt, and facing Bray Wyatt definitely took something away from him, in that Royal Rumble thing. But, he was that segment on Raw before the Royal Rumble, he was red hot and was like, God, nobody wants this guy to lose. What are they doing here? And he's maintained that. But they were slow to pull the trigger on him. He didn't win at Money in the Bank. He won like some Slim Jim Battle Royal, I think, at SummerSlam. And then they kind of teamed him, put him together with John Cena to kind of get like a little bit of a rub and see how serious this thing is. And Cena vouches for him. I don't think you can have him go to WrestleMania and lose. I think if they're serious about getting him to that next level, and he certainly has the reaction to prove it. The people still love him. It's been It's been almost a year of this now, or maybe even you could argue over a year. I think he's got to win. I think he has to be AJ Styles. So,
All right.
we'll see. I got LA Knight in this one.
We're split. Jerome?
I'm going with AJ.
Going with AJ?
Yep.
Yeah.
Going with
Okay.
AJ. I think LA Knight, I think that ship with him has sailed. I'm just not sold on LA Knight. It might be me, but I just see a ripoff of The Rock and Stone Cold. I want originality. I'm just not sold on it.
Okay. All right. Fair. Looking at Alex's prediction. So it's funny that Mike, you mentioned they're not going to do all of this. It's funny that you said, they're not going to do all of this just to have LA Knight lose. I'm going to read you what Alex wrote. All right.
Oh, I guess if Alex writes, it's got to be gospel then here. All right, here we go.
No, because it's kind of the opposite. It's similar, but it's the opposite.
No, actually, I'm curious to hear what Alex has to say. Truly.
Okay. All right. I just had it here. He says night 2 is just full of tough picks. He says what this comes down to is that AJ Styles did not travel all the way to Australia and attack Knight at Elimination Chamber just to then lose at Mania. He said this pick may come back to haunt me, and he said AJ Styles. So we're 3 for 1. Mike, what do you think about that?
Oh, all right. What do I think about that? I mean, Nia Jax flew all the way to Australia to lose to Rhea Ripley and is not even on WrestleMania. I don't like.
But she main evented.
She did main event. I will give her that. She did main event. AJ Styles literally flew out there just for a run-in.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. I'm
still going with LA Knight. I'm sticking with it. I'm going to rub your nose in it on the Night 2 podcast.
Fair enough. Looking forward to it. So 3 picks for AJ Styles, and Mike is the lone wolf going for Mr. L.A. Knight.
Yeah. You will acknowledge me.
All right. Well, we're almost at the acknowledgement part. We're at the pre-acknowledgement part, and we're at this match right here, World Heavyweight Championship. Seth, I'm just going to call him Seth Rollins. I hate the middle thing. Freaking pisses me off.
We are like-minded because I was going to say, I hope that this is the impetus behind him dropping that freaking thing. I can't stand that. I thought, remember when Vince left the first time and some people got their first names back, like Austin Theory, because went from Theory to Austin again. I was really hoping that when Vince left, they dropped the freaking thing. But It hasn't happened yet. I think they're waiting for the character turn.
What character? What is this character?
You know what? Drew McIntyre killed him on Monday night. He said, oh, yeah, you saw, Jared Leto play the Joker and decide to make a whole, or Joaquin Phoenix played the Joker and decided to make a whole character around it. You're cool. I was like, I guess that's what it is. I guess he's like the Joker, but he's not, because he's not funny. He's not really all that. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know.
I don't know.
He's got the song, and he is one hell of a professional wrestler. I can't take that away from him.
Absolutely.
But his whole character is built around being a great wrestler and having a song. But there's I don't know what Seth freaking Rollins stands for. I don't get it. He got some good promos and explains himself at least. But I hate the freaking thing. I just do.
No, as do I. I get invested in his matches. He's a great wrestler. He really is. But I cannot get invested in the character. And, in wrestling, we grew up with the larger-than-life wrestlers and this and that. You got to get invested a little bit in the character itself, and we're not. But with that said, he is the longest reigning World Heavyweight Champion. Granted, the only heavyweight champion. Only one to hold this title belt. Let's get to Jerome first. Jerome, what do you think? New champion, or does Seth retain?
So I think Seth loses and goes and gets his knee fixed.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You think Drew goes really deep and goes like all heel on him and just kills him, or what do you think happens?
I do. I think he'll focus on that knee, and I think that'll be the catalyst for Seth taking the pin.
Okay.
And then he'll become Seth Vanilla Rollins, because that's usually what he is to me. So it's all right.
Okay. Fair. Okay, so we got one for Drew. Mike, what do you think?
Oh, jeez. Who do you think's going to win, Seth Rollins or Drew McIntyre?
Yeah.
Say
Drew McIntyre.
There you go. So if she says it,
it's got to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Drew goes into champion going into Scotland.
Drew McIntyre, by far, is like doing career work. And when Roy and I were talking about this on the Post Raw show on Monday, I said, like, the work that he's doing right now is going to be featured in his eventual Hall of Fame video. You know, like this. You know, like he went from being the guy in the kilt with the sword going nowhere, telling jokes about, Uncle Roderick in Scotland, and he had his testicles showing from his skirt. You know, it's like, what are we talking about? What is this? They totally killed him with that stupid stuff. To doing what he's doing now, what a 180. Totally saved his career, and it made it so that, you know, he doesn't have, I think he has a contract now, but he didn't have a contract going into this character change. And I think he was able to probably write himself an even bigger check because of the work that he's done here. It's career making work or career solidifying work, because Drew McIntyre was doing great before, but I think he's solidified himself now as an undeniable main event talent. Not a guy who's going to sniff around the main event and go for the Intercontinental title, but a guy who's constantly going to be around the world title for a long time to come. The work has been that good. And to have CM Punk out there as well, and knowing that the ultimate destination for Drew McIntyre is going to be CM Punk, and even for Seth Rollins, it will eventually be CM Punk. But I think it's going to take Rollins a little longer to get to CM Punk than it is for Drew McIntyre. But Drew McIntyre's got to win this match. He's got to vanquish Seth Rollins, because, number one, Seth Rollins beat him way too many times. You know, and the first time he beat him was at Crown Jewel, and, you know, like he tipped his cap to him. He said, yeah, you know, you're right, I wasn't concentrating. And then the second time he blamed it on Damian Priest. Now it's time again. He's got to beat him. He's got to rub Seth's face, and it's got to be the impetus behind Seth ultimately turning heel. And I think it's going to ultimately lead to Seth going to the main event against Cody and Roman, and stomping Cody's face into the mat. I think it'll be a false finish, but he's definitely turning heel at WrestleMania. That's going to be a big thing. And it's going to be the driving force is going to be Drew McIntyre rubbing that title in his face and in CM Punk's face as well. There's a lot. This is probably as big a match or as important a match as Cody versus Roman is. You know, and especially in terms of like making this world heavyweight championship. There's only been one champion so far, Seth Rollins. But in terms of making it like a must-see title, this is it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna take a break for a second. I gotta tuck this kid in real quick. I'll be right back.
All good, Mike. See you in a bit. See you in a bit, buddy. All right. I mean, look, I cannot argue with Mike. I see some people in the chat will bring up some comments. Daniel says Drew in a squash. I don't think it's going to be a squash, but I definitely think Drew wins. Dimitris, Seth retains. Drew will become champion in Scotland. That's a bold statement. That is a very, very bold statement. I want to disagree just because I don't think Seth. I think Seth gets surgery or rehabs his knee, like you mentioned, Jerome. So that's why I don't think Seth retains, or a big reason why. Jorge says Drew and Señor Dinero on el banco cashes in. So we're getting a cash-in, according to Jorge. Look, this is a possibility. This is absolutely a possibility, but I think it would just completely suck for Drew.
Yeah.
All things considered, like really all things considered, having what doesn't suck, all things considered, is having Mike back. But what would suck, right on cue, Mike, you really know how to do this. But I think what would suck if Damian Priest were to cash in is it would suck for Drew McIntyre.
Not happening. Not happening.
No, I don't think so.
I think Damian Priest cashes in Money in the Bank on, if it's okay. Let's say Sami Zayn's victorious against Gunther, which I talked myself out of. Well, let's just pretend now that I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong, but I wouldn't have made that prediction if I thought I was wrong. But let's say that Sami Zayn does indeed take the title off of Gunther. I think on the Raw after WrestleMania, that's where Damian Priest cashes in. How about that?
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Make a big pop, pop for the Raw after WrestleMania.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
The crowd would go nuts for a cash in.
Priest cashes in on Drew after Mania?
No,
Sami Zayn.
On Zayn. Okay.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good character change. Judgment Day just needs to go. I think that whole faction's had its run, had its course, and I think a babyface Damian Priest as an Intercontinental Champion would be crazy. I think fans would really get behind him.
Okay.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I think Judgment Day will remain for some time. I think they need to get somebody else into that group though to replace Damian Priest. Who that's going to be, not sure.
Andrade
could be Andrade. It definitely could be Andrade. That would be a good.
Naturally, it would make a bit of sense. It would help him promo wise because he's not really going to be the one that's always going to talk. And
yeah, but I do think Judgment Day is in need of some changes. They're kind of stagnant, and I do think that this ladder match is a way to start scrambling that combination up.
Yeah. Absolutely. Going back really quickly, sorry, just for a second, the world title match. So Dimitri had mentioned Seth retains, Drew becomes champ in Scotland. So Drew in front of his home country crowd, being the most unlucky champion, winning it. Empty reign, COVID, give it to him in Scotland. I would say have him win it at WrestleMania and have him walk into Scotland as champion and out of Scotland as champion.
Yeah,
my opinion.
He comes back as the conquering hero this time.
There you go.
Because the last time, when he left Cardiff, Wales, which I guess they tried to say was close enough. It's in the same continent, I guess.
It's like Canada, US. Like US is not a home country if you're Canadian, and vice versa.
Right. That would be like me having my big match in Phoenix, and it's like, oh, Mike's in his home country. It's like, yeah, but not really, right? Same continent, but not really. I'm from New Jersey, It's like, come on, let's get real.
Oh, so, all right. So unanimous. It's a big one. But hold up, sorry. So unanimous so far. Drew wins.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's.
Drew goes over.
And I think you attack CM Punk too.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll get to that. Let's get to Alex. Alex says Drew McIntyre wins. Seth's insisting he is 100% going into this, but he's gonna go with Drew anyway. Miracles can happen. So Alex says Drew McIntyre. We're 4 for 4, all 4 of us. Now, gentlemen, it's the moment we've all been waiting for. Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, 2. This would be Bloodline rules.
Yeah, we get Bloodline rules with this one.
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
I'll let Jerome take this one.
All right. So I haven't watched much of Raw because it comes on at 6:00 for me, and so it's just a kind of a bad time. But so I got thinking, hasn't Cody had some interactions with Paul Heyman off and on in some promos?
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Okay. So I remember that now. So okay. So this is my prediction. It's probably going to sound crazy, but I think the bloodline turn on Roman. Cody wins and aligns with Paul Heyman, and we have a heel Cody Rhodes champion.
Oof. That is a very
bold.
I mean,
Bold.
when Cody was the Ring of Honor champion and he was a heel, he did some of his best work. Mic work and his in-ring work. It was some of the old school territory day stuff he was doing. I mean, it was great stuff. And so, yeah, it's just kind of that's where my thinking is. I think that's what we get.
Do you think? Let's say that happened, or that were to happen. Do you think the fans would allow it to happen in the sense of we've been so invested in this Cody run, finally finishing the story, and then we get this? Like I would relate this. I know it's not the same thing, but I would relate this to WrestleMania 17, Austin and Vince type of thing. I don't know how the fans would react to that.
Look, people in the chat ask me if I'm smoking weed or drinking something.
How much? Yeah, Grash is asking how much has Jerome been drinking. Look, stranger things have happened, but your prediction, Jerome, is Cody Rhodes.
Yep.
All right. At least we could. I don't know if we'll agree on that. We'll see. We'll see for Mike's prediction. But Jerome says Cody. Mike, what do you got?
Well, I mean, I agree with Jerome that Cody's going to win. I don't think it'll. I think they learned their lesson from Steve Austin, though, and you don't want to take your hottest babyface and turn them heel and be left with no babyface. It's like they almost did that with Daniel Bryan as well in 2014. They had him align with the Wyatt family at the end of 2013. Realized what a massive mistake that was and turned him right away. I think 2 weeks later, he turned in that cage match, and then he was over like Rover ever since, if I could quote Taz, which I'm ashamed of myself right now. Anyway, I think Cody's got to win here. I mean, the entire year has built to this moment. The struggle. It's like one of those American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, kind of storylines where it's like, you got to go through the hard times. And I think he's gone through his fair share of hard times. He had to go through Brock Lesnar and got decimated the night after WrestleMania. Had 3 really great hard-fought matches against Brock. He went through the Judgment Day. He went through Nakamura. He went, he did it all. Won the Royal Rumble again. He's going to have to overcome the failure of night 1 and overcome bloodline rules. But I think I think he has to leave WrestleMania this year as champion and clean. Now, speaking of Paul Heyman, though, like Roman Reigns' whole character has been built around this title so much. It's in Philadelphia. Paul's going into the Hall of Fame. I almost got this thought, like Paul Heyman doesn't strike me as a guy who's going to go through like one gigantic victory lap, at the end of his career. I think he's just going to disappear and you never see him again. I think I think Roman's going to try going to Hollywood. I think he's going to take a long sabbatical after losing. Maybe they do Roman Cody Part 3 at WrestleMania 41. But I think Paul Heyman is going to retire as a manager at the end of Sunday night. That's a bold.
Wow, that's a bold prediction.
I think it makes sense. It's he's been doing. God, he took pictures, ringside at WWF events for Vince McMahon Sr. as a teenager, sneaking into Madison Square Garden, making a fake press credential so he could be at ringside, taking pictures of the superstars, having his, contributing to magazines and manager since the late 80s. And, Paulie Dangerously down to, then taking over Eastern Championship Wrestling, making Extreme Championship Wrestling with Todd Gordon in Philadelphia. Running that, getting that small company that was literally a scrappy regional promotion taking it national, getting it a pay-per-view deal, getting it onto TNN, getting, ultimately going bankrupt and getting absorbed by WWE, becoming a commentator for them, managing Brock Lesnar to superstardom that carried him into the UFC because he made him such a believable superstar. Took Brock Lesnar and really kept business afloat for the last 10 years with some of that stuff that Brock was doing, and right down to making Roman Reigns doing what Vince could never do, make him into must-see superstar through his brilliance. I think Paul has gone as far as he possibly can go as an on-screen performer in professional wrestling. I think he has young kids. I think he's going to fade into the ether and be more of a consultant at this point. I think his days of managing, I think he's peaked. I think he knows it. I think it's time, and I think this will be it for Paul Heyman.
Wow. That's a concern I was not expecting, and you actually got me thinking about that. I mean, it would be very fitting, obviously, the location, and with everything that were to happen, right, with Roman potentially losing.
It's full circle. God, WWF used to, sell out the Spectrum routinely, in Philadelphia as well. This is WWF territory. This is Allentown,
Northeast.
The Northeast, Allentown, Stamford, New York, obviously, Philadelphia, Maryland, right up to Maine, Boston and things like this is WWF, classic WWF territory, as well as classic ECW territory.
Oof.
Makes sense.
It does. All right. Okay. I'm more inclined to go with Mike's bold statement than Jerome's bold statement of what happened.
Maybe you have your own bold statement.
But, I can't think of nothing that would top those two. I mean, nothing like that. But there was a bold statement, actually. It was in the chat. I'll bring it up, and because I feel like we're gonna get something like this. And I've always thought that when Roman loses the title, a bunch of people are gonna be involved. Now, Jorge mentions Cody wins, run-ins from Jey to take out Jimmy, which I think absolutely could happen. Cena to take out Solo, and Stone Cold takes out the final boss. That would be something. Now, are they gonna do it where it's literally Cody and Jey versus the entire bloodline? Is it Cody versus the entire bloodline? Is it people from the bloodlines past? Like, does Kevin Owens come out and he takes out Jimmy? Or you get what I mean? Like, is it like a whole brawl? Maybe that's my bold statement, in that a shit ton of people are going to be involved in this.
Yeah, I mean, like I could see Rollins stomping Cody Rhodes and CM Punk running down and shoving him. What the hell are you doing? Like, like something like that. Like, I mean, look, it's WrestleMania 40. Cena and Stone Cold certainly have dropped hints that they would be there. Now, one could argue that the pop of them just coming out could supersede what Cody ultimately does. But I actually thinking about it, I don't think so. I think it could be like a really great, moment for John Cena and Stone Cold Steve Austin, two of the biggest superstars outside of The Rock, in the last 25, 30 years of professional wrestling, endorsing Cody Rhodes at that point. When he wins, they hand him the title. They give it to him. The final boss is sent retreating, to wait for Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam, perhaps. There's a lot. There's a lot of ways that could go. I mean, that's a hell of a bold statement as well.
It is.
I think they are going to pull out all stops for this main event. Look, it's the main event of WrestleMania 40.
And side note, I love that they're calling this 40, because for the last maybe 10 years or so, they've never gone with the numbers.
Yeah, Vince. It makes it seem like it's old. Yeah. That's why Super Bowl, whatever number it was, they called it that number too, did so poorly in the ratings. Vince, please.
Yeah. So I'm glad that, because last year was not WrestleMania 39. The year before was absolutely not WrestleMania 38. We didn't hear those numbers. We're hearing 40. So just a little bit of a side note. We spoke about this on.
Into it. That's an incredible number.
Of course
Incredible number.
Of course it is. We spoke about this, Mike, you and I, on Monday after post-Raw, or during post-Raw, sorry. And as you just mentioned, I think they're going to pull off all the stops on this. I think they're going to do everything. We're going to get a lot of false finishes, a couple of run-ins. This main event, from Cody's entrance to whoever wins at the end, I could easily see this taking a full hour.
Oh, for sure. I was going to say the exact same thing. This is an hour-long main event. Yeah, entrance is included, I think, but I think Roman Reigns is going to be 45 minutes. So, that's not really saying much for the action here, but
no, but his entrances are always something. But yeah, I think we get easily an hour. I don't know how long this pay-per-view is going to go. It's early start time, 7 p.m. Eastern. Does it go till midnight? Does it go till 11? I don't know. Alex with another bold prediction. Barrel makes a run and bites Roman in the butt. It's a good one.
He's got to bite The Rock. The Rock was the one that was talking all the trash about Pharaoh.
Yeah. I'm very interested. I'm gonna go with Cody. Obviously, I mean, after all this talk, I hope it happens. When it happens, the pop from the crowd, because it's not just gonna be Cody finally, quote unquote, finishing his story. This is Roman Reigns losing the title after 1,300 and whatever odd days. This is going to be massive on in every possible way. But I'm going to go with, of course, Cody Rhodes. And I'm going to get to Alex's prediction. So Alex said Roman Reigns wins clean in a squash in 5 minutes. I'm joking. You guys should see Alex's reaction right now. No. Absolutely not. Alex says.
Whoa! I was like, "Oh my god!"
No. Alex says Cody Rhodes. He says, for what it's worth, it's remotely possible that The Rock ends up turning on Roman Reigns to help Cody win. I'm not holding my breath on the vague chance of Roman versus Rock at SummerSlam. Either way, Cody finally wins it to complete this arc, this tale, this story. I think that's fair. It's fair to say, and. I mean, Alex mentioned it. Do you guys think we do get The Rock turning on Roman?
No, not yet.
Jerome?
No, I don't think it'll happen yet. I do think eventually there will be a Rock Reigns match, maybe at SummerSlam, maybe, but not nothing
Nothing at Mania.
Not at Mania, no. I think maybe, if not SummerSlam, then maybe more or less towards the end of the year. I don't know. We'll have to see, because I think Roman's going to take some time off. I haven't watched the biography on A&E with him yet, but I did DVR it, and I did read some transcripts. He's taking this really potent leukemia medication. So I don't know if his leukemia is I think it's still in remission, but I think he's just going to take I just think he needs time off, physically, mentally.
I think he also wants to test the waters of Hollywood as well.
Yes, yeah. Well, he's close to 40, isn't he?
Yeah, very close. I think he's 37 or 38.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably got some more gas left in the tank, but it doesn't hurt to start exploring Hollywood, because I'm sure he wants to do something after he hangs up his boots.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair to say. Jorge's mentioned. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
He does have a great look, so I mean, he'd be crazy not to at least dip his toe in the water, especially with the connection with The Rock anyway. To see if there's something there. He's done. He's done a great job. Like this whole bloodline thing. Like when they did that Goodfellas commercial last year, I was like, yeah, I mean that's what it is. I mean, it really has been. It's been built on some great angles, but it's also been built on some great subtle acting. There's a lot of subtleties in a lot of the segments that they do that get people buzzing and talking, and that's Paul Heyman written all over it. So to have Paul, I think you keep him as a consultant for main event angles, because I think, as exciting as this main event's going to be for WrestleMania 40 this year, you got Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. And next year, you certainly could do Rock versus Roman on one of those nights. I think you got to do Rock versus Cody at SummerSlam or something like that to avenge the ultimate, slaps and everything. But you got to think about, I think Cody Rhodes, he can't win the title and then have it off him in 3 months. It's got to be a extended run. So they've really got to get to work now on who's going to face him next year. And right now, Cody Rhodes red hot. You got Seth. You got Drew McIntyre out there. You got Seth Rollins.
Maybe CM Punk.
And actually, it very well could be CM Punk. That maybe faces Cody Rhodes next year. Maybe that's a WrestleMania main event caliber match. But you got to think about who the hell is going to main event against him at night to WrestleMania 41. They got to get building that right now.
Yeah, that's trying to think. I mean, you got to assume, you got to think he's going to stay babyface. But I mean, you have someone like LA Knight. Who knows what the next year is going to happen with him? Jey Uso, but again, he's probably. The problem
with LA Knight is when the bell rings. He's another one. That's like
he's all right. He's all right.
He's explosive. He's got some good stuff, but then there's some stuff that's like when he jumps up to the top rope and tries to do a couple flips, it's not good.
I have your opponent for WrestleMania 41. And you guys mind, Alex, we bring Alex back in?
Please.
I want to see his reaction to this. Yeah, Alex, you ready? You good? Thumbs up if you're good. Okay. All right, let's bring Alex back in. There you go. We got Alex.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
There you go. No. Because, we're towards the end of the show. We might as well have you back on, right? Night 1 or night 2, whatever it is, WrestleMania 41. And everybody in the chat as well. Cody Rhodes. Gunther.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll take it.
Absolutely.
That's it.
It kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's like, and what we kind of just like when we were talking about the Intercontinental title match. It's like whether he actually drops it before whether he drops it to someone or whether he ends up vacating it. He's just about ready to go up to that main event level. And I think if you start building that up, especially after the interactions they had, I think it was this past one, but definitely last year's Rumble, you have so much that you can start building up on that. And so, yeah, I'm definitely down for Cody versus Gunther.
Gunther wins the Rumble. There you go. Set up. People in the chat are saying MJF. I think he resigned already.
Yeah, I'm gonna let y'all in on a little secret. I'm pretty sure it's just a work that he's not on the roster page. I'm pretty sure it's just a work. It's a heck of a work to take off his merch store, because that's like. But if he already signed a deal with them, if he already signed a deal with the AEW, they probably have given him enough money to make up for not selling any merch right now.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Good point.
What, Mike? You okay with that? Gunther and.
That is the exact reason why you have Gunther hold the title for almost 700 days and pass the honky tonk ban. It's partly because it's partly to build up the Intercontinental title, which he's done a tremendous job. He's made it into the Workhorse Championship again and really made it something that, like, if Damian Priest were to cash in for the Intercontinental title, it wouldn't feel like a consolation prize. Alex is right. He's done everything that he can do with it. And you're not holding that title just to hold it and lose and then go back to being part of Imperium and, helping them win the tag team titles. He is going to another level. And, he would have gone to another level this year if the whole thing with Brock didn't happen. I think Brock would have been the start of that next level move. So, yeah, I absolutely could see that. I absolutely could see Cody Rhodes versus Gunther WrestleMania 41. They just have to have somebody who can talk for Gunther.
I'm sure they can figure somebody out. They have some time. They have some time for that. All right. 2 final questions to everybody in the chat. I know we're going a little bit long here. Match of both nights and maybe the I'll say dud of the two nights. Let's go with the dud of two nights first, and then maybe the match of both nights. Anyone want to take a stab at it first? I know it's a loaded question, unexpected. I'm gonna. Yeah, I know. It's why I'm paid the big bucks.
Wow.
Not really, no. But
well, at least if anything, you're the better looking Nemmer. But
I'll take that.
Oh my God! Like what the hell could be a bad match on night one? I mean, I guess. What the hell? I mean, like, I guess you would say maybe like the 6-woman tag has the potential to be a dud just because it's like so clear that the winner is going to be Jade Cargill. And if the only reason that you hate a match is because it's predictable, like I don't think that's a real proper assessment of a match. But some people might say, oh, predictability will make it into a dud. So I guess like if I judge on a criteria of not really thinking intelligently, I guess I could say that. I don't know.
Okay, fair. So Mike's going with that one. Jerome, you agree? Alex?
I think it's going to be Mysterio, Dragon Lee, Escobar, and Mysterio. I think that'll be the dud. I think that, I mean, even though I'm not a fan of Bianca Belair, Naomi, or even Jade Cargill, and even Damage Control, I think the women are going to just put. I think they're going to put on a good match. I think that I'm bored with Mysterio, and I really haven't seen much of Dragon Lee, and I'm bored with Santos Escobar, and I think Dominik. I think they just threw him in the mix just to throw him on WrestleMania. But yeah, that's my dud of the night.
Okay.
Am I supposed to give you my match of the night? The one that's
we'll get the match of the night in just a little bit. Alex, you had a bit more time to maybe look at the
So here's the thing, and those of you who read recaps on Wrestleview, you know how I do. I am very easily entertained. I am not too harsh of a critic. It is why I even the stuff that I'm like less impressed on when I watch the stuff that I recap, I'm like I still find something in it. So it's really hard for me to actually call any of these matches a dud. And I'm actually going to lean into that a little bit, and I'm going to give you the closest thing to a real hot take of this entire stream. And I'm going to say that there will not be a dud of any sort, because the six. So these are the only matches I'm like, these might be like the least entertaining of the bunch, but there's still stuff to be excited for. I'm still excited for LA Knight versus AJ Styles. I've been kind of on the build to it, but I'm excited for the match, especially for the little bit of history that is there. I'm excited for the 6-man tag street fight. The build's been kind of shaky. The fact that I'm just now coming to realize that that Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits actually have a trio name now. So the thing was we get kind of reporting on before. It's like they've made that official finally. I'm just like, but it's a street fight. Street fights are always at least some kind of entertaining. And then the 6 women tag is going to be. I think it'll be fun to see plenty of spots, even if there's that level of predictability. So I'm gonna go with a slightly hot take of saying that there won't be a dud. Okay. Beyond that, I don't know. Like the match, like I'm kind of on a couple of them, but I think the matches overall are going to be exciting over the weekend. So I can't pick a dud.
Yeah, I remember when I thought like Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville was going to be atrocious, and it wound up being like something.
That was so much fun. Oh my gosh. I still think about that match.
I think about that giant mousetrap and I just love that. It's so great. Like you're saying, I don't think there's going to be anything intrinsically bad to be a dud, but a match that somebody could say like this was ranking all these matches on the night, this one's going to be the lowest ranked match. I could see probably Io Sky versus Bayley on night 2 could be the lowest ranked match as well, perhaps. Sometimes in a big situation, Bayley has a tendency to be a little too cute. I've seen this in some of her bigger matches where she does a couple things that, in theory and conceptualizing it, great idea. Execution wise, different story. It doesn't always go to plan. So we'll see. If they're able to rein it in that. But I guess on night 2, I would say Io Sky versus Bayley has the potential to be like the dud.
Yeah, and that's fair because in all honesty, and I was even in thinking about that match, I'm like, that match was also kind of hard to predict for me because I realized like the main thing about it that makes me lean towards Bayley winning is purely the fact that she won the Rumble, and there's a lot to do with like the fact that she won the Rumble and the story that they've been kind of building up between the Rumble and now. And then I've been thinking about this a little bit, like even though I'm sticking with my pick on that, but I've also realized if there's one thing I learned from last year, it's that the Rumble winner doesn't always get to finish their story right at that year's Mania. So,
No.
and that kind of, so it's like it's tricky. That match is kind of tricky, and I think to your point, like especially with the build, because the build kind of all these matches, that build, oddly, like that build. The build to that match feels the weirdest to me, just because it's like, Damage Control has been like pals. They've been really friendly with each other. There's been some stuff here and there that's helped build up to what they're doing now, but it's just like, so if I had, I'm kind of with you, Mike. It's like if I had to pick anything that might actually rank kind of low for various reasons, it might be that match. But yeah, it's just that hard to.
And even like, in terms of being a dud, I think on any show it would be an excellent match. It's just, I think there's so many excellent matches here. If I had to pick one, I guess it would be that. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm totally blown away by everything, and I hope when we talk about it on Sunday night, there's nothing bad about the show.
Oh, hopefully. All right, and match of the night or match of the WrestleManias or whatever it is. So however you guys want to phrase it.
Match of each night?
Each night, or just the main match that's going to steal. What I mean, you get what I mean.
I think the main event tag, and I think Cody versus Roman. I think the main events they are going to pull out, bar none, every single stop. Is going to be pulled out on that organ. They're going to blast everybody away with the noise of these matches. I think it should always be the main event. That is the match of the night, and I think it's going to be that way for both nights.
Okay, I think that's what a lot of people are thinking or going to think. Daniel says Gunther versus Sammy. I can see Sammy taking a lot of chops, but I still think both main events and both nights are gonna steal the show for different reasons. Night 1 might not have the best match in terms of like the main event, but the build up to it, the star power, everything around it, it's gonna be it. And night 2, I mean, it has to be Cody and Roman. Jorge saying Jey versus Jimmy night 1. That could be a sleeper. That could be one match that I think we're kind of overlooking in terms of how good this could be. And then night 2, Roman versus Cody for him. So we'll see what gives on that one. You guys think we get anything else? Any crazy surprises? Any crazy returns? Or that's about it?
I think they'll save. I think they'll save any further surprises for the next night. I'm hoping at least. I mean, there was last year. Last year was a surprise for a whole different set of reasons. But yeah, very true.
I think we definitely get surprises on Raw the night. The show the night after night 2. I definitely think there'll be some surprises.
Yeah, that Raw after Mania, I think it's going to go back to, last year was such a massive disappointment for Raw after Mania because that was the first show that Vince truly took over. And it was such a poor follow-up to what was an excellent WrestleMania weekend. I think they're going to go out of their way to make the night after WrestleMania back to being must-see and back to being cohesive and well thought out and planned and fun to watch.
Not that you mention it, question: was that the show the Raw after Mania last year, was that the show where Seth came out?
Yes.
He went to a commercial break and he just kind of stood there, said nothing, and left.
Yep. That was great. I mean, great.
That would arguably have that. I think that would have summed up the night. I think.
Yeah.
That was the one of the easiest segments I've ever recapped.
Yeah, but honestly, crazy to think that was already a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And honestly, like there was a few months there where it was just like, man, we're like it really like the joy for wrestling was sucked away from me again. And you know, because of having him back there with the book and how chaotic the shows felt all of a sudden, you know, it's like I kind of like that, you know, like Fightful, you know, releases you know, the rundown for Raw before it starts. You kind of know what the hell's going to happen because they know what the hell's going to happen. As soon as Vince came back, those rundowns disappeared. Fightful didn't get them anymore because there was no rundown for the show because of how Vince books. It was written as it went. And you know what? That's no way to run a company in the 21st century when we're trying to tell stories here.
No.
I'm sorry, Alex, you were going to say something. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. The thing that you know, and we've seen it. You know, we've seen it time and again with things with shows that you specifically saw that you find out later. Like Vince had a lot of his meddling within, but like that particular Raw in particular was an example of making a surprise for the sake of a surprise, and Vince's tendency to stick to unpredictability just to keep people on their toes or whatever. And yeah, it didn't work out that night.
Yeah, he became toward the end of his career as a booker, and really that's using like the term loosely because he was more of a chaos creator than a booker. He really became the very thing that in his prime he would rein Vince Russo in from doing. Mm-hmm. You know, when Vince Russo would come up with a crazy idea and a swerve for the sake of having a swerve, Vince would be like, okay, let's take a timeout. There was nobody left to do that for him.
No.
And it showed. Yeah. So I'm excited for this WrestleMania to just see what the new generation has. You know, the next generation of professional wrestling bookers. This is a big deal. It's a big deal for professional wrestling. It's really going to set the tone for the next decade. You know, the next decade of WrestleManias. This is going to be a great way to set that tone. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it's as great as we think it's going to be.
Hopefully, I think so. I think we have every reason to be optimistic in that sense. Every reason. All right, Mike, you want to bring us home?
I'll bring us home. Well, I do want to thank everybody. I mean, this was definitely a long prediction show, but gosh, we have had a lively chat the entire night. We've had people consistently with us the entire time. So we got to say thank you to everybody who tuned in to watch tonight and give their predictions. Thank you to everybody who's watching us on demand to hear what we think. I hope somebody wrote down these predictions because I sure as hell didn't, so that we can go back and check to see how well we did. I guess I'll just have to go back and watch the show again. But, we'll see what happens. But I also want to thank so much Alex Cars, Jerome Weiland, and Roy Nemmer for hanging out tonight, giving their predictions for WrestleMania XL, WrestleMania 40. Huge night for professional wrestling for all the reasons that we've already talked about tonight ad nauseum. So I'm going to cut it off there because we got a lot more talking to do over this weekend. So we will be back on the air Saturday night. Well, maybe it could be Saturday. It could be Sunday morning. Who knows? But we will be back to talk about night 1 of WrestleMania 40 and night 2 of WrestleMania 40 on Sunday. And then Monday we will return with the post-Raw show to talk about what I hope will be one hell of a Raw after WrestleMania. It's going to be a tremendous weekend for professional wrestling. I hope everybody just watches and enjoys. No tribalism, no comparisons to anything else. Just sit back and enjoy the ride. wrestling is great when everything's firing on all cylinders. It really feels like professional wrestling is just red hot. The Rock said it on Monday night. Professional wrestling is cool again. And God, it really does feel that way. When people that I had no idea knew what professional wrestling was, come up to me and start talking about it, that's a sign to me that it's transcending like those that mainstream barrier. So I hope everybody enjoys the ride. Just watch and enjoy. Don't watch to critique. Don't watch to be miserable. Just watch and enjoy something that we all watch the stuff. You sit and watch this podcast. We sit and talk about this because we love it. This is it. This is the pinnacle of wrestling coming up this weekend. Enjoy it. Love it. Don't criticize too much. Just enjoy the ride because wrestling is cyclical and it's been a long time coming to get to this peak. Enjoy it. Stop being miserable. On that note, I'm Mike Tedesco. That's Alex Cars. That's Jerome Weiland. That's Roy Nemmer. That way. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you on Saturday night.